Tashi Mighty, that's a good one there, Daddy. I mean, you could be doing that. All I want to do is bring...
20 years old.
Oh, yeah. Come here, I overheard a conversation outside in reception.
What is it about?
Caroline was saying... Is she listening?
She never listens to the programme.
Oh, that's good. We'll talk about her then. She was saying, chatting to Michaela, Caroline was saying, she says if she won the lotto, what do you think Caroline would do if she won the lotto?
Not come to work anyway. I know
No,
that for a
there's
fact.
two things she said she'd be doing. I heard this, but she'll not mind. She's not listening anyway. She says she would hire a nutritionist. Yes, she originally said a chef first, and then she says a nutritionist, and then she says she'd get a visit. What do you call it? What do you call one of them people that helps you out with the workouts and stuff? Training.
Personal trainer.
Personal trainer. She wants a personal trainer as well.
Wow. My note to self, do not speak within earshot of Lee.
Come here, I was listening to you yesterday, the sleepy boy.
I had the worst night's sleep last night.
After all the advice he gave everybody.
I woke up at 3 o'clock and I didn't get back to sleep till 5 o'clock.
No, come on. Spit the dummy.
That's the God's honest truth.
What did you do when you
I went
woke?
on my phone.
And what else did you do?
That's all.
You went on your phone?
I did.
Oh, it's okay. You made toast.
That's all I did. I went on my phone and I couldn't sleep again.
Why did you bother with the phone, the blue
Because
screen?
I couldn't sleep and my mind was racing. I was thinking about every negative thing in the world, so I had to get my phone out.
Right, okay.
To try and quieten down my inner voice, Lee. My inner voice was talking to me.
Shh, listen. What was the advice the guy gave us yesterday when you wake up at 3:30? We overthink a wee bit.
We do, yeah. Breathing or something? I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't work for me. I'm a complex character.
Oh, I see.
So I woke up. I was awake for 2 hours. The worries of the world on my shoulders. I put on the first 10 minutes of your show and I was fast asleep.
That does it. I need to be more lively in the morning. Maybe I'm a bit dead in the feet, am I?
6:30 to 7, just snooze radio.
I love it. We have a good show, right, bye?
All right, it is the 9 till noon show, approaching 2 minutes past 9. Let's get a news update, and it's over to Michaela Clark.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. A forensic and technical examination of the scene of a fire at a derelict house in Ballybuffet is due to be carried out. The abandoned property was extensively damaged by the blaze, which broke out at around 9:30 last night in the Trusk Road area. The Donegal Fire Service worked into the night to bring the fire under control. The area remains sealed off this morning as Garda investigations continue. A child has been hospitalised following a crash in Letterkenny yesterday evening. The collision involving a car and the 12-year-old male pedestrian occurred shortly before 7 o'clock on the Ramelton Road. He was taken by ambulance to Letterkenny University Hospital for treatment to his injuries, which are not believed to be life-threatening. Inquiries into the crash are ongoing. The Taoiseach has welcomed the decision of the DUP to back a deal that will see the return of the Northern Ireland Assembly. That's after the announcement of the party leader, Jeffrey Donaldson, last night. The UK's Northern Secretary is welcoming the move and insists the UK government will deliver on its end of the deal. Jeffrey Donaldson says they're looking now to help Northern Ireland prosper.
Over the coming period, we will work alongside others to build a thriving Northern Ireland, firmly within the Union, for this and succeeding generations. When our grandchildren look back on this period, they will be able to say, we had a just cause, we held the line.
Donegal County Council is to write to Junior Health Minister Mary Butler and the HSC, urging them to provide the funding necessary to maintain the service being provided by the Adolescent Counselling Service in Donegal. The service, operated by the Diocese of Raphoe at the Pastoral Centre in Letterkenny, is facing potential closure because it can't secure the funding to employ a full-time administrator. The issue was raised yesterday by Councillors Jerry McMonigal and Patrick McGuyan. Councillor McMonigal told the meeting of Donegal County Council that the service is saving the government money by taking referrals from CAMS, the HSC and others, but it's concerning that while the right noises are being made, there's still no resolution.
Why has it not been resolved? And that's the worry I have. This is something that I think the Minister should intervene and support the call for the funding for the Director of the Services, but also to mainstream monies for the project so that the great work that they're doing can continue.
Weather now bright today with frost and ice clearing, mostly dry with just the chance of an isolated shower. Highest temperatures of 7 to 9 degrees. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with news again at 10 o'clock. Until then, good morning.
Discover the new Nissan Ariya. Discover 100% electric. Discover Japanese-inspired design that sets it apart. Discover luxury beyond expectation. Discover innovation like you've never known. Discover smooth acceleration, quiet operation, and advanced technology. Discover it today at Nissan dealers nationwide. The new Nissan Ariya from €43,500. Test drive it today and discover outstanding. Nissan, innovation that excites. Dealer delivery and related charges apply.
And now, it's time for the talk of the Northwest. The 9 to Noon Show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
Hello, good morning to you. 5 minutes past 9 just turned on this Tuesday, the 30th of January 2024. You're very welcome along to the 9 to Noon Show. How are you all keeping out there? I hope you're well and things are going good for you, and we can look forward to having you on board for the next 3 hours in this show, and of course throughout the day here on your number one local radio station, Highland Radio. The lines are open for you right now to WhatsApp or text if you've anything you wish to talk about. We've all a range of topics up for grabs today. We want you having your say on 086 60 25,000, 086 60 25,000 from outside the Republic, 00353 60 25,000, particularly if you have an opinion on the DUP. They're the main unionist party in the north, of course, endorsing a deal to return to power-sharing government. That according to leader Jeffrey Donaldson. He was speaking in the early hours, just about 8 hours ago, on that issue. So if you've got a view on that, let us know from wherever you're listening. You can give us a call as well on 07491 25,000, again from outside the Republic, 003537491 25,000, and emails if that suits you, comments at highlandradio.com. You can watch the programme as well on YouTube, on your smart TV or your Fire Stick or Google TV. We're on YouTube, just type in Highland Radio Ireland and we're there for you. And across your mobile devices on that app, and also on Facebook, Highland Hub, Highland News and Sport, and on X. So it hasn't made the papers, but I'll just read you the news that the DUP has endorsed a deal to return to power-sharing government. Jeffrey Donaldson said it provided a basis for the return, subject to new legislation being passed in Parliament and final agreement on a timeline. The party was has boycotted government installment for nearly 2 years. We don't know the outcome of the vote. It was sort of a secret vote in terms of endorsing it. A lot of opposition to it. There was a bizarre situation on social media whereby a person opposed to the deal, Jamie Bryce, isn't it? Jamie Bryce. He was live tweeting this secretive meeting. He wasn't within it, of course. He was excluded from it. He was live tweeting what was being said, and it caused a furore at the meeting. At one point, there was accusations that the police may have been leaking the information. Unbelievable stuff. And I think the general feeling of those that are opposed to it is that it doesn't meet the seven red lines, or however you want to phrase it, and it certainly doesn't remove the Irish Sea border, which was one of the big stumbling blocks. But there's enough in there and enough commitment that Jeffrey Donaldson is going to march them up to the top of the hill, and there is talk that there could be a power sharing executive in situ by this time next week, which then would free the billions of euro from the London government for people's pay and other things. But anyway, if you've a view on that, let us know. 086 60 25,000. It'll be an interesting couple of days ahead, I think. Some of the stories that did make the papers this morning: the Irish Times, the government really changing its position on immigration. Algeria and Botswana will be added to the list of safe countries of origin as part of a wider government plan to subject more international protection applicants to faster processing times. Minister for Justice Helen McEntee will bring a memo to Cabinet that will also outline plans to clamp down on people who arrive into Ireland but who already have refugee status in another European state. Now, this was going back months ago. People were saying, how are people getting here? They're supposed to sort of stay in the first safe country they arrive in, and then they're up in Ireland. And then it was like, well, that doesn't really happen very much, and it's not really a big deal. And then, yes, it does kind of happen. And now the Cabinet's going to, the Cabinet has fully accepted it and says they're going to further crack down on that. Well, the move comes as immigration tops the list of issues getting the attention of voters in the past month, according to public sentiment tracking by Ipsos B&A. Ms McEntee is expected to tell ministers that she plans to increase the number of international protection applicants who will be subjected to fast processing. She will today sign orders to expand the list of safe countries by 2, so that international protection applicants coming from those countries will have their cases considered and decisions issued within a maximum of 90 days. The accelerated processing will come into effect from tomorrow. So we'll see how that... We'll see how that processes. Refusal of a guide dog and smoking in the car among taxi top complaints. A taxi driver who refused to allow a guide dog in their car was fined €250, while another who smoked while the passenger was in the vehicle was hit with a €100 fine. This in the Independent. The cases are just 2 of almost 1,800 complaints received by the National Transport Authority about taxi, hackney and limousine drivers last year, a record high. The figures were released by the NTA, which monitors compliance on 20 million trips taken each year. A total of 1,782 complaints were received in relation to more than 26,350 licensed drivers. Drivers refusing to accept card payments made up the majority of complaints. Since September 22, taxi drivers are legally required to accept either card or cash payments, whichever the passenger prefers. Driver smoked in the vehicle, leaving a odour of cigarette smoke in the car, one case read, adding that the driver was fined €100 for the offence. Now, of course, it's kind of interesting, isn't it? But when you think of the amount of journeys that are taken in excess of 20 million, there's only... relatively speaking, 1,782 cases. It's a tiny, tiny amount, and of course not all of those are upheld. So on the face of it, it looks like not a positive article for taxis, but the way I would look at it is clearly they're doing something right, because that complaint level is tiny. We're going to be talking about the uptake of the defective concrete redress scheme. But I wanted to read this article because the uptake is really, really low. And we would know from contacts that we have from real people in many, many different situations that they feel that they can't engage with it, that there's lots of reasons as to why people have their different reasons, but the red tape, getting on the scheme, front-loading money, not having the money to top up what you might get from the States and so on and so forth. And that's the felt reality in really the epicenter of this scandal. Then interesting that the tone of an interview that was on national radio. So I'll just read the article as it's written, because if you read this article from outside of Donegal, just give me an impression as to what you think it might read like. It's in the Irish Daily Mail. A redress scheme for owners of homes with defective mica and pyrite minerals will be extended to other counties, Housing Minister Darragh O'Brien has said. The government introduced the redress scheme almost 2 years ago in the face of a huge campaign mounted by people affected by the defective blocks, which have ruined thousands of homes across the northwest. The scheme is almost $3 billion in scale at present. Yesterday, Fianna Fáil TD Mr O'Brien commented, the scheme is taking hold across the affected region, not just in Donegal but in Mayo, and I expect to expand the scheme very shortly to 3 further counties. Speaking on the News at 1 on RTE radio, he added, I'm looking at Sligo. There's a small number of homes in Fingal, North Dublin, and there are individual homes in some other counties. A report by the European Parliament last week said that it was imperative that the scheme be improved and called for red tape to be reduced. And on it goes. Mr O'Brien said the committee that wrote the report was very positive about the scheme. He also said steps had been taken to get rid of red tape. The Enhanced Effective Concrete Blocks grant scheme initially only applied to homeowners in Donegal and Mayo, but was later widened to include houses in Limerick and Clare. So, as I say, you know, if you were to read that article and presumably to have heard the interview, it sounds to me like the EU was very positive about the report, which it was. In fairness, it says it was a good scheme, but also that work has been done to get rid of red tape, and that's already happened, and that the scheme is taking hold, and now it's going to be expanded. So, as I say, is that? And I'm not being critical of the minister as per se. I'm just saying, am I missing something? Because what I'm hearing, what we hear on this programme, and we are right, you know, in the heart of where the problem is it doesn't sound like that, if that makes sense. So I just thought it interesting to sort of read how the situation is being, how it is presented. And I presume Minister O'Brien believes that to be exactly how it is. Britain's get rid of vapes. It's not going to be long before the disposable vapes are gone from here, don't you know? The Irish Daily Star anti-vape tonister, as is labelled in the paper, Micheál Martin, has said he hopes Ireland could follow in the UK's footsteps and introduce an outright ban on disposable vapes. The Fianna Fáil leader said he would welcome any crackdown on the products which he argued are being put beside sweets to entice children. UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak announced this week he will ban disposable vapes. While it's already illegal to sell vapes to under 18s in the UK, the Conservative Party leader has outlined plans to ban them. It's very hard to overstate the problem with vaping amongst young people in this country, because they're so enticing. These things, they appear cool. They appear, and I'm not saying this for a second, but they appear far less harmful than smoking. They taste fruity, and there are so many children taking them. And what's happening now too is they're taking vapes with other things in them, CBD oil or a cannabis delivery mechanism as well. This is not just down the country, it's right across the county, across the country. There is a really, really big problem with young people vaping, and it's leaving parents and guardians in a tough position because the person then becomes addicted to this really addictive substance in nicotine, and you have to bring them through some sort of a process to get them off it. And then 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Do you know what I mean? But anyway, I think the sooner the disposable vapes are gotten rid of, the better. I don't know what you think out there, 086 60 25,000, but it's causing heartache in homes right across the county and country. Lawrence Fox used to be a really quite successful actor. He used to have the world at his feet. Now he's really effectively down to zilch. Lawrence Fox yesterday lost a High Court libel action with two people he called paedophiles online. The actor turned politician was sued by former Stonewall trustee Simon Blake and drag artist Crystal over a row on social media site X. It was Twitter at that time in October 2022. I remember reading the exchanges at the time. Mr. Fox libelled Mr. Blake and former RuPaul drag race contestant Crystal, the real name Colin Seymour, in a row that began as a conversation about Sainsbury's marking Black History Month. Judge Mrs. Justice Collins Rice said Mr. Fox's words were seriously harmful, defamatory and baseless. Reclaim Party founder Fox countersued the pair and broadcaster Nicola Thorpe over tweets accusing him of racism. Mrs. Justice Collins Rice dismissed the counterclaim yesterday, and this was, he came out of court and I was watching it, was like, define racism, you need to define racism. The problem with that is like, if you call someone a paedophile, and unfortunately it seems to be the go-to insult on social media, it certainly can have career-ending ramifications. Racism is different because, and it's quite interesting that he is a free speech absolutist and wants to be able to say whatever he wants to say and all that kind of stuff. But racism, to an extent, is actually a thought crime because, I could say something and I could genuinely believe it not to be racist. And someone could hear something I say and genuinely feel it to be racist, though it's not provable that it actually is racist or to what my motivation is. So I think it's I thought just kind of interesting, given the what he stands for, that he is looking for such a specific ruling and law on what is, I think, possibly arguably a thought crime. Now, that's not in any way to diminish racism, by the way. I'm not saying, I think it's very clear what racism is, but I'm on about in terms of slinging online at each other, right? It's very clear what racism is. I think it's very clear. But in terms of the word being spoken in someone's opinion of whether you're racist or not, as I say, the closest words I could associate to that would be feelings, thoughts. There could be some not interesting, that's a terrible way to describe it, worrying, concerning, who's to say how it might pan out, developments in the Middle East today, because America's promise to avenge the deaths of 3 US soldiers in a Middle East strike risks all-out war with Iran. President Joe Biden has vowed to retaliate for the drone attack on Saturday, but analysts fear any action against Tehran, blamed for the blitz on the US space in Jordan, could draw Russia, Iran, and Lebanon-based terrorist group Hezbollah into the conflict. The region is already aflame after October's attack on Israel by Hamas. the war on Gaza and Houthi attacks on Red Sea shipping. So however he decides to respond, it's going to be very interesting. Because it will trigger a certain chain of events, or it may not. As I say, all depends. Right, okay. That's a run through the papers. 086 60 25,000 WhatsApps and texts to that number, or you can give us a call on 07491 25,000.
The newspapers are courtesy of Kelly Centra Mountaintop Letterkenny, the 2022 C-Store National Off-Licence of the Year.
The 9 till noon show with O'Hara's of Foxford. We take 18 hours to craft our new 18-hour fermented sourdough bread. Now's the perfect time to enjoy a slice.
It's the Right Price Tiles and Wood Flooring half-price sale. Get up to 50% off all tiles. Wood flooring, bathware, cladding, everything's reduced. Tiles from only $8.99 per square yard and wood flooring from only $11.99 per square yard. Right Price Tiles and Wood Flooring half-price January sale extended until Bank Holiday Monday.
If you're making some changes in your home, visit the big January sale now on in the newly extended McGinley's Furniture in Letterkenny. There's big reductions in every department, with great savings on suites, beds, mattresses, living room and dining room furniture. Also on occasional furniture, including lamps, pictures and mirrors. That's all in the big January sale now on at McGinley's Furniture on the Joe Boner Link Road in Letterkenny. See mcginleysfurniture.com.
It's time to visit Ireland's newest Lexus dealership, Lexus Letterkenny. With 50 years of experience, you can trust us in this new era of electrification. Experience our all-electrified range, including the stunning ES Hybrid Saloon and our award-winning range of plug-in hybrid SUVs. And view our finance offers, including the all-new LBX. Start your 2-for-1 journey with Lexus Letterkenny Port Road. Lexus. Experience amazing.
Brian Adams is back on tour in 2024. Join Highland Radio on our trip to Dublin to see the man himself at the 3 Arena on Tuesday the 21st of May 2024. Your trip includes luxury transfers, bed and breakfast at the 4-star Carlton Hotel Blanchardstown, your standing ticket to the show and a shopping trip to Dublin city centre the following day. Find out more on the outlet at highlandradio.com or call us on 074 91 25,000.
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel Route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin when you book online and travel for less. Expressway, bringing you the time at
9:21. Now, a study carried out over a 10-year period by ecologists at the universities of Hull and Aberdeen and the James Hutton Institute has shown that grazing a mixture of sheep and cattle at low intensity is the best approach for maintaining biodiversity in the British Uplands. Dr. Gerard Rorty is a vet and has spoken to us on this programme before, and he joins me on the show now. Good morning, Gerard. Thank you very much for your time today.
Good morning, Greg.
Okay, what is your reading of this study, and I suppose put it into an Irish context for us?
Well, it's an excellent study, but the reason I'm referring to a British study is, sadly, Teagasc, which is our natural agricultural research institution, left the field in terms of research on our uplands maybe 30 years ago. They sold the research station in Lannan. So despite the fact that 29% of our area, agricultural area in Ireland, is uplands, Teagasc doesn't do any meaningful research. When I say meaningful research, that's in terms of how to maximise food production whilst achieving all the buzzwords, which is biodiversity. Biodiversity means as many little plants as possible, as many wild animals as possible. The other big buzzword at the moment is carbon sequestration, obviously in terms of global warming. The other buzzword is keeping good water quality. So we're reliant, unfortunately, on research that's done over in Britain. And I attended an Upland symposium down in Westport back before November. Last November, I was actually organised by Teagasc, and it was fantastic. But the sad thing about it was Teagasc doesn't do work. Now, I talked to Frank O'Mara, who is the national, he's actually a director of Teagasc, and he acknowledged him, and he's acknowledged me in writing, Teagasc doesn't do research on grazing cattle on the uplands. They do incredible research on dairy cows, on intensive beef. They do great research on pigs, great research on poultry. And I talked to Minister Charlie McConnell recently about it in the last few weeks as well. But this has an impact. And the reason there's an impact is then we have nobody in Ireland actually able to say, right, this is the way we should manage the upland. And the knock-on effect then is that you get people with simplistic views coming out and actually influencing government policy. So the classic is that we had an announcement, and it's gone under the radar, of a 3.1 billion fund to go and start buying up land in Donegal to try and expand the Glenveigh National Park. And I'm standing back saying this goes totally against all the research that has been done on comparable land in the Scottish Highlands. Taking that land out of production has a major detrimental impact on the ecology and on vegetation, because what you do is, instead of having a family farm there, grazing cattle and sheep, maximising biodiversity, maximising carbon sequestration, you effectively abandon it, and you abandon it to red deer, which already are very much a menace in Ireland. And yet, what totally amazes me is when there's very little reaction from politicians. I could see it coming from last year. Emil Martin abandoned the Fianna Fáil policy, which has been there since 1926, of keeping as many family farms farming as practical. And I worked as a vet in Meath, and I came across the Rathcarn Gaeltacht, which was fantastic. All these families gathered up in Connemara and Gweedore and Kerry, and they were put into a massive big estate up in Meath, and similar in East Donegal, where farms were underutilised, with people brought up and settled in farms. But now we're going to have a situation that if you have an agricultural graduate, there's 35 graduates coming out of a fantastic course in ATU in agricultural science. So those girls and those boys are going to be looking, a lot of them are going to be looking to get on the ladder to start farming in Donegal. And one of the easiest ways, it's a bit like getting on the housing ladder. You might start with a 2-bedroom apartment and graduate up to a 3-bedroom house. One of the easiest ways is to start off with a whole farm. But now we're going to be competing with what Minister Noonan has announced is a 3.1 billion kitty. So when a farm comes up from sale in Derry or in Glendowen or Gweedore or Glenties, instead of a young girl or boy with a green cert, and there's over 100 actually. Teagasc helps people educated to get green certs every year. We're going to have 100 boys and girls who would have green certs and would love to get started farming, competing with a government policy which is actually based on flawed science.
Well, is it based on any science at all, Jared? Because with the lack of research, then you have no science whatsoever. There are some that feel that our policies are almost reactive, so that, a deadline on climate approaches, well, what can we do? We have to do this really quickly. A deadline approaches on nitrates from the EU, and I'm really simplifying the language here, of course. Well, what do we do? Well, we have to make a decision in a matter of months. That seems to be.
I think it's very simplistic, and I think you have to drill down and look very often at where, particularly the Green Party, and where the South County Dublin agenda is coming from. And I've had conversations with people in the past who basically said to me they'd love to see Donegal west of the O'Donnell Park and the McCool Park as one great big national park. And I said to them, well, apart from the fact that you're totally flawed in biodiversity, what about the societal impact? What about the impact of not having families farming in those highlands? And I keep making the point, if you drive through the Scottish Highlands, the first Highland glen you come to is absolutely beautiful, and the second one's nice, but the third one you're looking for a coffee shop, or you're looking for a village like Carrick or Teelan or Glencolmkill or Ardara or Glenties. And one of the things that sustains our villages is actually having families farming. But have no doubt about it, there is very much an agenda coming from Dublin not to have people farming. We've had the attack on dairy farmers, and it's very much an attack that they just don't want people producing milk. We've an attack on beef farmers. And similarly now in the uplands, the simplistic approach to the uplands now is we'll just have a great big national park. And the sad thing about it is that actually, from a biodiversity point of view, that actually sets us back. You have somebody like Dr. Darren Evans from the University of Hull saying that the proposals just abandoning those uplands would be incredibly damaging in terms of conservation. And yet, some of the things that are done by the government and some of the proposals in this Biodiversity Action Plan are fantastic. I mean, take the sake of argument, NPWS does a farm plan scheme, and I'm part of it in Lavamore Mountain, whereby we graze cattle on the third highest mountain in the county, 2,200 foot above sea level. We use technology called no-fence colours. It's incredible, Greg. We can actually see, I can see in my phone where my cattle are any day of the week. We can move the cattle on the mountain. We have an ecologist comes up onto the mountain, looks at the flowers, looks at the vegetation, looks at how we manage it. And that's actually where all the science is saying where we should be going. But just under the radar, we have had this massive amount of money allocated. And land has been bought before in Donegal to expand the national park. That land has just been abandoned to red deer. And as I said, you have all those young girls or boys who would want to get on the farming ladder, and this is a block because now they're competing with them.
But they
and
all wanted, these people you talk of, these graduates, all wanted elsewhere. There is work for them in other countries, which is a bitter pill to swallow.
Fantastic. No, it's fantastic, and I would encourage them. As someone who has travelled the world, I would be saying it's brilliant. Head off to Australasia, work on farms.
But you want them to have something to come back to as well, though, obviously.
But you would there's a certain amount of them that will want to come back, and you have to understand the impact that this does on other farms, because you have a situation there where you start taking out an awful lot of these farms, Upland, the cheaper land, the Upland farms, you're taking those out. And then you mentioned diluted nitrates earlier. You have the guys in the dairy farms who need that wee bit more land. So you're starting to squeeze the overall land pot, and you're starting to make it even more difficult for the intensive farmers, because you're increasing the competition. To do what? Just to have an abandoned wilderness of red deer, where science is very clearly saying to us, Europe is actually saying to us, Europe does not want, and has been very critical, actually, of the lack of grazing of some of the lands in Ireland. So Europe is saying to us, look, guys, we want more grazing on your uplands. And then you've Minister Noonan announcing the plan that he's just going to abandon farming on the uplands altogether.
Now, of course, then, presumably that, I think you've already indicated, that drives up the price of this land as well. So you have the farmer looking to expand or whatever it might be. The price of that land is being driven up, and the competitor is the state.
Exactly, and it makes the competitors, the state isn't afraid and have been doing this as well. The state has been buying up big chunks of productive land in Douth and Meath as well. Now, the difference there, and I have to compliment the fact that at least they want to keep that in production, is that land would be farmed. What I can't get my head around, and I've discussed this with various politicians before because I'm very familiar with the Lake District, we should have a big national park over the whole of West Donegal, but a national park of real living family farms. In other words, there's no reason why you wouldn't have a Donegal National Park, but leave the people farming the land. Leave the people there and show them that what we are doing is maximising biodiversity, maximising carbon sequestration. The National Trust manages Lake Windermere National Trust in Cumbria, but the family farms are there farming and grazing their herd with sheep, as they have been for generations. You don't need this John George Adair approach as we had in 1861 of leaving 47 families evicted on the roadside. Yeah. And that's effectively what you're talking about.
And just really,
they're not going.
Yeah, what you're saying as well too is that you're surprised that I don't know how much this is being talked amongst the general population, but certainly we're not hearing any TDs or MEPs or councillors picking it up in any particular way. You are calling on those with influence to actively oppose.
I am calling
the
on
purchasing of.
What I would love to see, is all the councillors in Donegal County Council to start off with a motion to say that they oppose the state buying any lands in Donegal where there's a girl or boy who wants to farm it. That would be a good start. We have, what I'm very, very pleased is that the president of the IFA, Francie Gorman, is very much against the idea of the state buying land where you have families wanting to farm. Similarly, INHA, Irish Nature and Hill Farmers Organisation, again is against the state trying to buy land. But at the moment it's government policy, and unless that government policy is reversed and 3.1 billion has been allocated to it, we are going to have girls and boys who want to buy land in the dairy managers or the blue stacks having to compete with the state.
Just in relation to that then, and finally, Dr. Gerard Rorty, there's an awful lot of anger that people aren't able to build properties on their own land, or that you can't build a house along the N56. Now that's housing policy. Do you believe that is interconnected as part of an overall plan, i.e. it's probably easier to depopulate an area if you don't allow people to become new residents of it? Or is that am I veering into the conspiracy theory territory there?
No, I think you're totally right. I think that if you look particularly at the liberal, hard left green agenda, they want everybody in cities and they want the countryside as just one great big national park. I don't know where they think the food's going to come from, because going back to what I said earlier, the world is facing into a world food shortage. 2050, we're going to have 10 billion people. We definitely, with climate change, there's going to be an awful lot less areas able to grow vegetation that we can. There's going to be a temperate zone, a small temperate zone around Europe where people can actually graze animals, and the uplands of the west of Ireland is that area. But it totally goes back to this argument. Their whole argument is everybody in cities and everybody using buses and everybody then you don't need cars. But what nobody ever talks about, Greg, is the societal impact. And I keep harking back to the fact that the tremendous asset family farms and having children brought up on farms. But there's no difficulty, to my mind, of having people living in remote areas, raising their families in remote areas. Yes, they're going to need cars. Yes, they're going to be able to travel and working and learning to work on those farms. But there definitely seems to be. It's not a conspiracy. There is very much an agenda that we should have absolutely everybody stuck into urban areas, jammed into urban areas, and there's no consideration at all about, the societal impact that then has in terms of antisocial behaviour and everything else.
Yeah, probably a greater threat than many to what Ireland is now and what it might become. Always interesting. Dr. Gerard Rorty, thank you very much for your time. Any views on that, please let us know. Now, Highland Radio, in conjunction with the HSE, are delighted to be part of the Dementia Understand Together campaign. There are over 64,000 people living with dementia in Ireland, with this number set to increase. More and more of us will be affected by dementia in our lifetime. Dementia Understand Together and the HSE want to help create an Ireland that embraces and includes people living with dementia and displays solidarity with them, their families and supporters. For more information and support, you can free phone 1800 341 341 or visit understandtogether.ie. And here's a little bit more information.
We all understand the importance of social interaction, being with each other, connecting and sharing experiences. But did you know social interaction plays a key role in helping people who are living with dementia? It's healthy, like exercise for the brain. And it supports well-being, which has positive benefits for the person. Staying socially engaged with friends and family has also been shown to boost self-esteem. A dementia-inclusive community enables people who are living with dementia to do just that, to live. Whether that's staying connected to or joining a club, taking up a hobby or visiting their local shop. Being with each other to talk and share experiences nurtures the soul and gives a sense of belonging. You can be that connection. Display the National Dementia Inclusive Community symbol in your organisation, community group or club. By displaying the symbol, you are helping to build dementia-inclusive communities and showing that people with dementia and their loved ones are supported in your area. For free training and more information, visit understandtogether.ie or call the national helpline provided by the Alzheimer's Society of Ireland on free phone 1800 341 341 from the HSE.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com.
The 9 till noon show with O'Hara's of Foxford. Our new Baker 51 authentic sourdough celebrates 72 years of baking. Now's the perfect time to try it for yourself.
Despite low temperatures and high energy costs, it's important everyone stays warm and well through the colder months. It's also important to understand that saving energy where possible saves money and helps reduce the impact on our climate. Simple steps can make a big difference, like turning down the thermostat by 1 degree, limiting the use of high-energy appliances like tumble dryers, or ensuring we don't heat rooms that aren't in use. Government is playing its part too, making a range of supports available to help ease the burden on families across the country. For support and advice, visit gov.ie/reduce your use. Brought to you by the Government of Ireland.
At Hickey, Clark and Langan Insurance Brokers, they compare quotes from all the leading insurers, so you get a great price. Home, motor and van. farm, holiday home, travel and liability insurance. They quote them all. So if the worst happens, you're covered. For a competitive insurance quote today, call Hickey, Clark and Langan on 9126688 or pop into their office at Ballymacool, Letterkenny. Hickey, Clark and Langan General Insurances Limited, trading as Hickey, Clark and Langan, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
PDO thread lifts and skin boosters, which rejuvenate the skin by improving facial contours, lifting and tightening the jowls, neck, cheeks and eyebrows, are available at Genesis Aesthetics and Skincare Clinic, Gweedore. To choose the right aesthetic treatment for you, contact Mary Ferry, your aesthetic practitioner. Also offering fat-dissolving treatments, dermal fillers and laser treatments for all skin conditions. Hair and makeup packages also available. Genesis Aesthetics and Skincare Clinic, Gweedore. 07495 325 75.
Crawford Tiles and More Castlefin. January sale now on. Big reductions in store on tiles, bathware and wood flooring. Delivery and fitters available. Get that bargain while stocks last. Remember, at Crawford's we've got it covered for you. That's Crawford Tiles and More Castlefin. 9143942.
Now, unfortunately, as regular listeners would be aware, I don't have access to question Minister Charlie McConalogue on this programme or the Housing Minister, Darragh O'Brien. But I do note that yesterday on RTE, Fianna Fáil TD Darragh O'Brien commented that the defective concrete redress scheme is taking hold across the affected region, not just in Donegal but in Mayo. And I expect, he said, to expand the scheme very shortly to 3 further counties. Speaking on the News at 1 on RTE, he added, I'm looking at Sligo. There's a small number of homes in Fingal and there are individual homes in some other counties. He said that a European Parliament report was full of high praise, had high praise of the scheme within it. In fact, it did state that it was an ambitious scheme and words to that effect, but there are many issues that need to be addressed. So, Owen O'Brien, Sinn Féin housing spokesperson, do you recognise that the scheme as described by Darragh O'Brien on RTE yesterday?
I don't, Greg, and I think not just me, but most affected homeowners in Donegal and Mayo, Limerick, Clare, Sligo and elsewhere wouldn't have recognised it. Last week I received very detailed information from Darragh O'Brien by way of a parliamentary question, giving us an update on the number of people who've applied for the revised scheme since it opened last summer, the number of people in the scheme overall, and the total number of households since the scheme opened in 2020 who've received the full grant. And the figures from the Minister's own department tell a completely different story. We've had only 54 fully remediated homes across the affected counties since 2020. Only 43 of those were in Donegal. But probably the most concerning figure that was in the parliamentary question was since the new revised scheme opened last summer. This was the scheme that Darragh O'Brien, if you remember, rushed through the legislation in 2022 and said it was going to solve all of the problems of the earlier scheme. Only 236 homeowners, 160 of whom are in Donegal, have applied in 6 months. And I was in Donegal on Sunday. I had some other party business in Derry on Saturday and Sunday, and as I was beside the county, I came across just to hold some private meetings with some affected homeowners who have very badly damaged homes. And what they're telling me is they can't access the new scheme because they've done the calculations, and the gap between what they would get from the revised scheme and the current cost of rebuilding their homes is so great that they can't even apply. So the Minister's own data is telling us a different story. And while I fully support the extension of any remediation scheme to other affected counties, nobody should be excluded. 6 months in from the revisions, and I don't see any progress being made. And that's why the Oireachtas Housing Committee will hold on the 27th of February a public hearing. We'll have affected homeowners from Donegal, from Mayo and from County Clare, as well as all of the state agencies, the department, the housing agency and the local authorities, because we need to hear people's experience and then put those questions to the department as part of a commitment we gave last year to track the progress or not of this scheme every 6 months.
The delay in progressing, we obviously speak to an awful lot of homeowners here, people moving out of their houses in the middle of storms, people with black mould and dampness in their properties, and they hear of the similar issues in Dublin and sympathise fully with them, but no one's talking about what's going on up here. older people that quite, and when I say older, it's not actually much older, but people who have no access to finance, but those with no option to finance, and with the best will in the world, probably not the life remaining to actually pay back any finance. There is simply no option, no hope, nothing they would feel for them. A family we spoke to last week with a child with a disability, they want to stay within the square footage of their property, but have a room whereby a child could receive therapy to have a better outcome in their lives. No wiggle room, no negotiation, no real answers as to how something like that could be done or could not be done. Like, I could go on for the next hour and a half of typical cases of people out there that have no hope with this scheme at all. Have you any confidence that through any meetings that this might change under this current government?
And I'm very conscious of all of those families that you're talking to, because I've been in some of those houses and I've met with them, and I don't want to add to their sense of anger and frustration and hopelessness. But we also have to be very honest with people. I was in one house on Sunday, and the cracking is so bad on the gable wall that at some point, if that property isn't remediated, if it isn't demolished and rebuilt, that gable wall is going to collapse. And the homeowner made the point to me that they are genuinely surprised that there hasn't been a serious injury or a fatality because of, for example, the collapse of a gable wall or a supporting wall due to the level of damage. My concern is this. If you listen to what the minister said yesterday, he thinks the scheme is working fine. He thinks it's rolling out and people are taking it up, despite the fact that his own departmental figures show the very opposite. We are talking about this scheme, Greg. I know sometimes for folks in Donegal and Mayo and elsewhere, it feels like nobody in Dublin is listening. We are listening. And the Oireachtas Housing Committee, at my request, but in fairness, other members of the committee agreed, when we had the homeowners and the relevant government agencies in June of last year, just as the revised scheme was opening, we gave a very clear public commitment that every 6 months, for as long as this scheme is been run in the way it is, we will bring homeowners to give their direct experience and then put the questions to the department, because that's something we can do. But beyond that,
we'll come back to that, sorry, but Owen, there's an interesting situation on here as well, because there's an awful lot of people on engaging in this scheme because they want to see what you guys will do, that they're hedging their bets that Sinn Féin will be in power in the next government and that you will fulfil your promises and your commitments that you've made. That there is a lot of people saying, well, that's the only pathway I see. And now, obviously, people will feel they've been let down by politicians in the past, and it's like, well, we'll see. Will these commitments be delivered on? So what are you committing to the people of Donegal and elsewhere today in terms of, the first year in government?
So first of all, we will do exactly what I said we would do when I last spoke to you on this show. If you remember, homeowners provided opposition spokespeople with 80 amendments to the government's bill to turn it into a genuine 100% redress scheme that would provide an end-to-end redress, not unlike pirate remediation, obviously with an opt-out and self-build for those who wanted it. We've fully committed to that and we remain committed to that. We have outlined in our alternative budget again for this year a minimum of 200 million euros annually, a minimum to get 100% redress fund running. And one of the great values of an end-to-end scheme is many of the types of cases that you just outlined, where there are specific needs and specific families, they can be dealt with through an end-to-end scheme. So we remain committed to 100% redress, and that means 100%. We remain committed to an end-to-end scheme for the vast majority of homeowners, but with that crucial opt-out for those that want the self-build option.
And science is suggesting that foundations and inner leaf are going to be affected. Would they be? So are you talking most likely foundations being replaced through a scheme and also inner block work?
Absolutely, and we have always said from the start, one, that we have to follow the science, but two, the National Standards Association of Ireland has been far too slow in reviewing IS 465. Again, last week I got an update from the Minister on that, and it is terribly depressing. So you have Paul Dunlop and the team around him who have already produced some very important peer-reviewed science showing the presence of pyrrhotite and the need to ensure that foundations can be tested and included in any rebuild scheme, particularly in Donegal, because pyrrhotite is particularly acute there. And that has to be included in the scheme.
Okay, so I got a contact from a listener yesterday or the day before. Their rebuild cost is estimated at €770,000. The state would cover that in its entirety.
See, and here's the problem. When you have a grant aid scheme where each individual homeowner has to then go and contract individual builders and individual material supplies, the cost of each individual rebuild will increase and will increase dramatically. What we know from the Leinster Pyrite Remediation Scheme is when you have an end-to-end scheme where a state agency is involved through multi-annual framework agreements, procuring contractors and procuring materials, that helps you control and bring down costs. So for me, the issue is this scheme actually is the most expensive way to do it. And if we went for a proper end-to-end scheme, and if we went for proper multi-annual frameworks with building contractors and with material suppliers, including contractors and material suppliers outside of Donegal, then I actually think we would be able to bring down the all-in cost to the state very significantly. But ultimately, the owner of that home has done nothing wrong. They didn't cause the defects, and therefore, if the state is, and while this government hasn't, I believe it should, accepting responsibility in part for this issue, then the state has to make sure that homeowners have their homes fully remediated and aren't out not just tens of thousands of euros. I've spoken to some people who the gap between the grant they would be offered and the full cost of remediation is in the tune of €100,000. And that's not for a home that's 300 or 400 square meters. In many cases, that's for homes of a much more modest size. It doesn't matter the size of the property. This scheme isn't working for homeowners.
Would you be in favour of penalty-free downsizing?
The interesting thing about penalty-free downsizing is that was an enormous compromise by homeowners in recognition.
It was one of the recommendations
cost.
You talked of earlier. It was one of the recommendations you talked of earlier.
Absolutely,
the amendments,
and we are absolutely committed. If homeowners want us to continue to include that in the changes to the scheme, we absolutely will. And in many cases, in fact, it's not just a matter of cost. In some cases, it's because people, as they're getting older, may prefer a smaller home within the curtilage of the property. I think all of those options have to be included in the scheme. But crucially, unless it's actually 100% redress, unless it's an end-to-end scheme managed by professionals, and unless it's backed by adequate finance, we're going to have the situation we have currently. So we are as committed today as we were in 2022 when we supported the homeowners amendments, and we will continue to listen and work with affected homeowners and others to make sure 100% redress.
Would there be funding for, like, say, for instance, the redress focus groups, which were doing, I think, great work in making some advances, but didn't get the support maybe that they would have required, shut down? Would there be other avenues of funding to support things like that support the people through this very stressful process? And also in the time, what kind of a timeline would we be talking about with this stuff? Because everything seems to be in the affirmative, Deputy.
So in our conversation with homeowners, and when we looked at the original 2017 report, there was a sense in which this probably would take about a decade to address. Now, that was when we were just looking at Donegal and Mayo. That was before we were looking at potentially up to 13 counties, according to a report that was presented to us by Engineers Ireland last year at the Oireachtas Committee. And also that's before we had to include the Celtic Tiger structural defects, and obviously the government is bringing forward legislation. But we're still operating within a notional 10-year timeframe, obviously prioritising the worst affected homes at the very start, those that have the greatest levels of damage. Enormously good work has been done by that redress focus group. My own colleagues, Padraig McLaughlin and Pierce Doherty, among others, have been assisting them. And that's a very valuable route. But for example, some people may not be able to access that zero-cost finance, particularly given their age or their circumstances. And that's why I suppose we need to go back to the cause of the problem here. The government didn't get the legislation right in 2022. They rushed it through, they ignored the homeowners, and they ignored the opposition. And you remember I spoke in 2022 about amending legislation. That amending legislation is ready to go. We haven't proceeded with it because homeowners wanted to prioritise the revised scheme and the revised regulations, and we supported them in that. But we are going to have to amend the underlying legislation to get the scheme right.
But Owen O'Brien, this is a very, very important conversation. I'm sure you're fully aware of this, because given the commitments that you're talking of and the costings of it and the timeframes, there are probably people listening that have no intention now of going on the scheme at all, because why would they, given the firm commitments that you've made now, why would they risk being out of pocket for 50, 60, 80, 100 grand, tying themselves into a bridging loan or what have you? You've been so firm in your commitments here. I hope you're going to back them up, and I mean that with respect, because, as I say, there are people probably now going to say, right, I'm going to wait and roll the dice that this guy's party gets into government. That's the significance of the commitments you're giving right here today.
Well, first of all, I'm giving the commitments that I have repeatedly given since the start of this issue, as has Pierce Doherty, Pádraig McLaughlin, Mary Lou MacDonald, including during her visit to Donegal. What I would say to listeners is we don't know when the next general election is going to be, and we don't know who's going to form the next government. And there are houses right now that need remediation. So I don't think we can wait until the general election. And that's why the issue about tabling the amended legislation during the lifetime of this government, that's why raising these matters formally through the Oireachtas Housing Committee to put pressure on government. That's why all of the campaigning activity and the lobbying activity of the campaign groups across the affected counties is so important. So many people don't have the time to wait, and therefore we need to get this right now. So I'm not at all suggesting people should sit back and wait until some future election and some possible change of government. I would encourage people to apply to the scheme. It is there, imperfect and all as it is, but to get the ball rolling. But we need this scheme change now. And the homeowners you spoke about, I'm very conscious when I was driving through in a show on Sunday, Pádraig was just reminding me that many of the people who are living in these homes are now in their 60s, some into their 70s.
Understood.
The impact on these people is so great. We need the scheme changed.
Will there be any retrospective element to this then? You know what I mean? The people that you're saying should apply to this scheme now that could find themselves, with €150,000 shortfall, could find themselves, paying 20 grand on top of a 40 grand loan or 50 grand loan, whatever it might be. Are you saying committing to them now that there would be some retrospective element to their out-of-pocket borrowing expenses?
So we've always argued that there has to be equality across all of the remediation schemes. The government has already indicated that with respect to the Celtic Tiger structural defect scheme, that obviously the legislation hasn't been produced yet, that will have a retrospective element. We tabled amendments at the request of homeowners during the revised Defective block grant scheme legislation in 2022 to provide for retrospection. You can't have retrospection in one scheme and not in the other. It's a very basic principle. And the reason why retrospection is so important is because some of these homes are structurally unsafe. And therefore, if somebody is in a position to move forward and demolish and rebuild or remediate now, it would be absolutely unacceptable to say to them, well, actually, you'll be treated differently and remediation won't be provided, because in that case, maybe they won't do the work and maybe that gable wall will fall down and maybe somebody will be hurt. So we're for equality between all the schemes, and it is government who have already said there will be retrospection, rightly so, in the Celtic Tiger.
And your funding of this, funding on this will not be dependent on a clawback. I mean, obviously, I think you've said in the past that you'd be very interested in, other parties, those with an interest in this funding this in some way or other. But in the first instance, you're saying that this will be funded through central funding. Hit the road, with the ball roll. I can't remember a phrase for it, to be honest. I haven't eaten yet. But from the get-go.
Our commitments are very clear, and Pierce Doherty works very, very hard to ensure alternative budgets are fully costed and fully resourced. Last year, the government had a total capital allocation for all of the defect schemes of 70 million. 2/3 of that remained unspent at the end of the year. We are absolutely committed to having a minimum initial year expenditure of 200 million euros. But that is going to have to rise if we're going to clean up what essentially is Fianna Fáil and Fianna Gael's Celtic Tiger era building defects mess, whether it's defective building materials or defective building processes. Homeowners did nothing wrong. They've been left carrying the can for mistakes of government and industry. They should not have to pay.
Thank you very much indeed. I appreciate your time. Owen O'Brien, Sinn Féin housing spokesperson. I just hope, given the fact that I know people might well make decisions off the back of that interview and roll the dice and sit it out for another year or so, despite Owen suggesting that perhaps they shouldn't. You just really do hope that those commitments are followed through on. Right, let's take a break for news.
The 9 till noon show with O'Hara's of Foxford, introducing our new Baker 51 authentic sourdough bread, a delicious new addition to the team.
Oh, Ciara, congratulations. Look at her tiny fingers. She's beautiful, just like her mammy.
Oh, thank you.
Have you got a name yet?
Well, we're thinking...
She's going to call her Brooklyn. Brooklyn, Massachusetts, Phoenix, Arizona.
Your vote is your voice, so if you don't speak up, someone else is deciding for you.
Baltimore, Kentucky, Murphy O'Neill.
Who's that?
Hospital porter. Just back from his American road trip.
Make sure you're registered to vote. Go to checktheregister.ie and be a voter, so that it's your voice that's heard. From Comisiún Tábhachtán, Ireland's Independent Electoral Commission.
Oh, Brookie must juicy come to Auntie Hannah.
Is that the new Opal?
Yes, of course.
Does it really look that good?
Yes, of course.
Is it fun to drive?
Yes, of course.
Is it packed with smart tech?
Yes, of course.
Can I test drive it right now at Manor Motors Opal?
Yes, of course.
The new Opal Corsa, now available. Hybrid and electric coming soon. See manormotors.ie for details.
Hi, Nathan Carter here, and I'm delighted to say I've just had 2 installations from Cherrymore Kitchens and Bedrooms, and I have to say their attention to detail is second to none. With their sleek design and craftsmanship, your dream kitchen is just a visit away. So why not head over to Cherrymore Kitchens and Bedrooms and let the magic begin.
Cherrymore Kitchens and Bedrooms, Donegal Town. More kitchens your way since 1996. Visit cherrymore.ie or call 9725 to book your free design appointment.
Highland Radio weather updates brought to you by Grant. Building a new home? Choose Grant's A++ rated Airona air to water heat pump and Uflex underfloor heating. Visit grant.ie.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock. Donal Kavanagh at the news desk. The Dáil's Housing Committee is to hold a hearing next month on the defective blocks crisis, with Sinn Féin's housing spokesperson saying he believes the Housing Minister's optimism about the revised scheme is misplaced. Owen O'Brien says Minister Darragh O'Brien said yesterday the new scheme is working and taking hold, but the Minister's own department's figures suggest that's not the case, with many people not even applying for the scheme because the cost of remediation and what's on offer from government have too great a gap between them. On today's 9 till noon show, he told Greg Hughes these issues will be discussed at the Housing Committee in 4 weeks' time.
6 months in from the revisions, and I don't see any progress being made. And that's why the Oireachtas Housing Committee will hold on the 27th of February a public hearing. We'll have affected homeowners from Donegal, from Mayo and from County Clare, as well as all of the state agencies, the department, the housing agency and the local authorities, because we need to hear people's experience and then put those questions to the department as part of a commitment we gave last year to track the progress or not of this scheme every 6 months.
The Taoiseach is welcoming the restoration of power sharing in the north, which could happen within days. It's after the DUP accepted a deal from the UK government, which will see trading rules relaxed for goods brought into Northern Ireland, which are set to remain there. It follows 2 years of deadlock. Leo Varadkar is welcoming the breakthrough, but says he's still waiting to see the full details.
The Irish government is very keen to work very closely with the new executive to do all that we can do to make sure that it's successful and that it lasts, because success and sustainability are really important. I hope to speak to the Prime Minister later on today to discuss matters a little bit further. I should say that while there have been consultations between the European Commission, the Irish government and the British government for the last number of months, we haven't seen the fine detail of what's been agreed just yet.
In a statement this morning, the Chamber of Commerce and Derry says it'll be a huge relief to the business community that the DUP have agreed to accept the deal to return to Stormont. CEO Anna Doherty says business needs it, the economy needs it, and after 2 years without an executive or assembly, it's time to get things moving again. She's urging the government to implement the legislation required as quickly as possible. A forensic and technical examination of the scene of a fire at a derelict house in Ballybofey is getting underway this morning. The abandoned property, a former music school, was extensively damaged by the fire which broke out at around 9:30 in the Trusk Road area. The Donegal Fire Service battled the blaze for a number of hours before bringing it under control. The area remains sealed off this morning as Garda investigations continue. More on that on the Garda information slot, which follows this bulletin at around 10:15. A child's been hospitalised following a crash in Letterkenny last evening. The collision involving a car and the 12-year-old boy occurred shortly before 7 on the Ramelton Road. He was taken by ambulance to Letterkenny University Hospital for treatment for injuries which are not believed to be life-threatening. Inquiries into the crash are ongoing. Employment by others than the client companies in Donegal has fallen slightly despite a growth in the 6 other Gaeltacht areas. There was a 1% drop in employment in Donegal, while Galway, Mayo, Kerry, Cork, Waterford and Meath all recorded increases. There were 3% more job roles within others than the client companies in 2023 compared to the year previous, with 9,526 employed in others client companies at the end of last year. Donegal County Council is to write to Junior Health Minister Mary Butler and the HSE, urging them to provide the funding necessary to maintain the service being provided by the Adolescent Counselling Service in Donegal. The service, operated by the Diocese Rafo at the Pastoral Centre in Letterkenny and a number of outreach centres across the county, is facing potential closure because it can't secure the funding to employ a full-time director and administrator. The issue was raised by Councillors Joy McMonigal and Patrick McGowan at a Donegal County Council meeting yesterday. Councillor McMonigal says 4 weeks after this debate started in public, it's worrying that the Minister and the government still haven't acted.
Why has it not been resolved? And that's the worry I have. This is something that I think the Minister should intervene and support the call for the funding for the Director of the Services, but also to mainstream monies for the project so that the great work that they're doing can continue.
Well, the forecast bright today with frost and ice clearing, mostly dry with just a chance of an isolated shower. Staying chilly though, top temperatures today 7 to 9 degrees Celsius. And that's Highland Radio News. We're back with news headlines again at 7. Check all of today's news, of course, on our website, highlandradio.com. But for now, from the news team, good morning.
The obituary notices for this Tuesday morning, January the 30th. The death has taken place of Hugh McLean, Dubla, Letterkenny. Hugh's funeral cortege will be leaving the Eternal Light Chapel of Rest at Mountaintop, Letterkenny at 1:30 this afternoon, going to Lakeland's Crematorium Cavan for private cremation. At Hugh's request, the family home and the Eternal Light Chapel of Rest are strictly private to family only, please. A celebration of Hugh's life will take place later this week. The death has occurred of Kevin Donaghy, Darney, Brooklis, reposing at McBurshley's funeral home today from 4 o'clock until 6:30, with removal afterwards to Dublin. Kevin's body is being donated for medical research. House private, please. A celebration of Kevin's life will take place in St John's Church at Killybegs on Friday at 12 noon. The death has occurred of Benny Porter, Letterkenny Road, Lifford, County Donegal. Benny is reposing at his late residence in Lifford. Funeral from his late residence tomorrow morning at 10:30, going to St Patrick's Church, Murlock for 11 o'clock Requiem Mass, with burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Funeral Mass can be viewed on clonleeparish.com. The death has taken place of John Alcorn, Moylview, Milford, reposing at the residence of his son Declan and Cosh Alcorn, Cherhuman, Milford. Funeral service tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock in Fanet Presbyterian Church, Kerrykill. Burial afterwards in Milford Presbyterian Cemetery. Funeral service can be viewed on Patrick Sweeney, Funeral Director's Facebook page. Family time on the morning of the funeral. Family flowers only, donations if desired to the Alzheimer's Society of Ireland, care of any family member or Patrick Sweeney Funeral Directors. The death has taken place of John Sweeney, John the Chef, Milford and Lunya Derrybeg, originally from Drogheda. Remains are reposing at the family home in Lunya. House private on the morning of the funeral to family only. Wake today and tomorrow from 11 o'clock to 8 o'clock. Rosary both nights at 8 o'clock. Funeral Mass on Thursday morning at 11 o'clock in St Mary's Church, Derrybeg. Interment afterwards in Maharagan Cemetery. The funeral mass can be viewed live on Kieran Roti Funeral Director's Facebook page. The death has occurred of Michael Melly, Colleen Letchermack Ward and formerly from Fintown. Removal from McGlynn's funeral home at 3 o'clock this afternoon, going to his own home in Letchermack Ward with family and neighbours welcome. Funeral mass tomorrow at 12 noon in St Bridget's Church, Letchermack Ward, with interment afterwards in Kilbregia Cemetery. House is private on the morning of the funeral. And the death has taken place of Patrick McGarvey, Paddy Barneslower Termin. Patrick's remains are reposing at his late residence. Funeral from there this morning, going to St Columbus Church, Termin, for Requiem Mass at 11 o'clock, followed by interment in the adjoining cemetery. Family time before the funeral this morning. Family flowers only, please. For family information and more details regarding wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
And now, IMRO's 2023 Best Local Original News Programme, The Voice of the Northwest, the 9 till noon show, with Greg Hughes.
And you're very welcome back to the second hour of the programme. Good morning if you are just after joining us. Some of your comments here before we take a break. Will Sinn Féin allow older Micah home owners to transfer their houses to a younger family member? I believe that question was asked in the past and was answered positively. Call it as it is. Minister O'Brien knows the figures on the Micah grant applications, but yet suggests the opposite. He doesn't give a damn, won't even come on local radio, should not accept this from him or Mr McConalogue or any other government representative. Greg, please ask Mr O'Brien where Sinn Féin are going to get the finances to fund all their promises. Well, I did ask that, and it's from central government funding, and then they committing 200 million a year, which could have an uplift, he says. And then, of course, it was also suggested that there would be some sort of a clawback from other interested parties, or those might be found to be responsible. Will it take a fatality for Darragh O'Brien, the Fianna Fáil Housing Minister, to wake up to the seriousness of this crisis and get people sorted? Well, just look at his approach to the housing crisis in general, says a listener. He would argue they're delivering lots of houses. Tried with the AIB to get a bridging loan. They said they don't do them, leaving us that we cannot get started with the scheme, and so many people in the same situation. Just wondering, out of interest, if having listened to that interview, now I know I speak to lots of people out and about, as you know, and on air, and there is a scepticism, maybe because of politics, that all of these promises can be or will be delivered, because people have in the past heard of promises and things will change and it hasn't come to pass. So I think there's always going to be an element of cautiousness amongst some. But just wondering, if you listen to that interview and you are an affected homeowner, has it changed your attitude in any way, shape or form? Has it given you hope? Are you so discouraged it couldn't? Does it mean you're going to wait? Are you going to progress in the scheme if you can? Like, I'd be really interested in just like real world experiences of someone who heard that interview and is in that situation. If you don't mind, I know you're going through an awful lot with stress as it is, but it just would be really interesting. And you can do so by WhatsApp or texting 086 60 25,000 or calling us on 07491 25,000. Well said, Dr. Rorty, such an interesting speaker. A very rounded, intelligent, practical and insightful interview by Dr. Rorty. I hope our Minister for Agriculture from a rural Donegal constituency listens to this voice of rural Donegal rather than giving his ear to green South County Dublin policies as that person sees it. Morning, Greg. Well done to Jeffrey Donaldson going back to work with Sinn Féin. Please God it will help the peace process and give hope to other countries to sit down and talk. Fingers crossed. Regarding immigrants arriving here, are we ever going to stop receiving them? Is our population going to keep increasing with them? I see the government spent $2 billion on them last year. Surely this is not sustainable. Thought the Windsor framework was done and dusted, so what did they offer signed to get the DUP back? Well, that is remaining to be seen because it wasn't made public yet. Obviously, it must have been related at the meeting, though I note from unionist commentators who are opposed to it, that they don't believe it's changed anything at all, and that border on the Irish Sea remains. That's going to be teased out within unionism for the most part over the next few days and beyond, I'm sure. Hi, Greg. A thing that works for me when I wake up in the middle of the night and can't get back to sleep, I count backwards from 300. But you have to visualise each number as you count that focuses your thoughts on each number. If you do it right, you won't get to 260. Good luck. I'll try that the next time. Thankfully, my sleeping isn't too bad, but it just was last night. I don't know what it is. And do you think I could get my mind settled when I woke up? Not a chance. But anyway, we're here. We'll have an afternoon nap if I'm allowed, and we'll carry on. And we'll be back tomorrow, bright, fresh, and bushy-tailed. Okay, gonna take a break. Stay right where you are.
The 9 till noon show with O'Hara's of Foxford, introducing our new 18-hour fermented sourdough bread. A winner with the whole family.
Are you building, rebuilding, or simply improving your home? Come along to Donegal's premier gathering of home building professionals in the Northwest. Donegal New Build and Rebuild 2024 will take place in the Mount Errigal Hotel, Letterkenny, from Friday 2nd until Sunday, February 5th. Admission is free to this 3-day event. This ad is sponsored by McGee Insulation.
If your business exports goods to or through Great Britain, you will be affected by new UK government import controls, taking effect at the end of January 2024. Now is the time to make sure that everyone in your supply chain understands what they have to do. Don't leave it too late. Make sure your business is ready. For more information and support, visit gov.ie/Brexit. Brought to you by the Government of Ireland.
Keep out the cold, cold, cold! And ring Fleming for their full range of garage doors, agri doors, insulated doors, milking parlour doors. Fleming, 91 48 234.
McCullough Jewellers in Letterkenny are synonymous with fine jewellery, quality watches and giftware. With stores at Main Street, Letterkenny and the Letterkenny Shopping Centre, or online at ormccullough.com. You can choose from their quality product range in a relaxed atmosphere, and their sales staff will be happy to help you make the right choice, whatever the occasion. McCullough Jewellers, making moments magical for generations.
iMotors are your main Nissan dealership in the Northwest, a trusted Japanese brand for generations. Contact iMotors to find out why people who make the move to Nissan never change. To check out our 2-for-1 offers, visit imotors.ie.
Cooney's Home Interiors January sale just got bigger. 30% off all beds, 20% off all rugs, lamps and accessories, 20% off all dining room furniture, and up to 20% off all sofas and suites, all with immediate home delivery. But hurry, only while stocks last. Cooney's Home Interiors Letterkenny Retail Park. Style and perfection at incredible value.
Mátá symptom vírus, flu no COVID-19 bar susaglacha agus fannach sa bhaile. Mar ní amháin go méid tú ag tuairt aird a thain, beidh tú ag cosint daoine eile freisin. Daoine tá mór leat, agus daoine nar casa ort fiú, a téitá a bheith I mhaol níos mó. Agus ná déon darmad go bhfuil cóirla ar hse.ie chun tú a chur ar de chean léim a rís. Ó aimimeach na seirbhíse sláinte.
Now, coming up in about 4 minutes, we've got Community Garda information where you hear live and for the first time the latest appeals and information from An Garda Síochána here on the 9 till noon show. There's appeals in relation to an RTC in Letterkenny, criminal damage in Ballybofey, Letterkenny, Greencastle, a burglary in Culdaff, thefts in Stranraer, Letterkenny, an assault in Letterkenny, and much more besides. But we do have one quick break to take because of our extended interview with Owen O'Brien. We're going to take that break, then we're going to be right back with, as I say, Community Garda information. Stay right where you are.
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
It's time for Vision Ireland Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Tuesday the 30th of January. You're playing on the brown sheet. The reference number is S2. It's game number 5. The numbers are 48, 62, 44, 77, 26, 79, 49, 68, 50, and finally 64. Phone your claim to 910-4833 before 8 tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your Vision Ireland bingo information at highlandradio.com.
Go full Lidl with these exclusive Lidl Plus Super Savers. Like Board B approved Irish Angus lean beefsteak mince was $5.99, now $4.79. Pick organic vine tomatoes, 48% off, now $1.29. And there's 30% off frozen breaded fish cakes, now $1.81. Scan your Lidl Plus app and go full Lidl today.
Nutrius Milk Replacer range, which includes NutriStart and NutriStart Plus, offers the best start to your calves this spring season. With 23% and 25% crude proteins, ideal for calf to beef and heifers rearing systems. Give your calves the best possible start. Available in your local Homeland store. Visit nutrius.ie for full nutritional information.
Bryan Adams is back on tour in 2024. Join Highland Radio on our trip to Dublin to see the man himself at the 3 Arena on Tuesday the 21st of May 2024. Your trip includes luxury transfers, bed and breakfast at the 4-star Carlton Hotel Blanchardstown, your standing ticket to the show, and a shopping trip to Dublin City Centre the following day. Find out more on the outlet at highlandradio.com or call us on 074 91 25,000.
The 9 till noon show with O'Hara's of Foxford, introducing our new 18-hour fermented white bloomer, scoring the bronze at Blasnahiran.
The Community Garda information slot is brought to you by Sheridan Security Systems, protecting what you value most. Call today and get your zero-wire alarm system from €299. Sheridan Security, 91-26025.
Now it is 20 minutes past 9, about to turn on this Tuesday, the 30th of January. Time for Community Garda information, and in studio with me today is Garda Claire Rafferty, associated with the Milford Garda Station. Good morning to you, Claire.
Morning, Greg.
Thanks so much for your time calling up to us today, and we'll get straight into the appeals if that's okay. Gardaí seeking the public's assistance in relation to a road traffic collision on the Ramelton Road.
Yeah, so yesterday the Gardaí attended the scene of a road traffic collision involving a pedestrian and a vehicle on the Ramelton Road, Letterkenny. It occurred at approximately 6:55 yesterday evening. So the vehicle was travelling from the Polestar roundabout towards the Ballyrain roundabout when the collision occurred. All parties involved were at the scene upon the arrival of Gardaí. The young male pedestrian was taken to Letterkenny University Hospital to receive medical treatment for the injuries he sustained in the accident. So we appeal to any road users who may have witnessed the collision or who we think that they may have captured the collision on their dashcam footage to make contact with us in Letterkenny, and the number there is 074 916 7100.
Claire, could I ask you just to move forward 6 inches for me, please, because just that so that microphone gets you. Thank you very much indeed. And we heard that loud and clear. It's just so it's extra clear. Next appeal is criminal damage in Ballybofey, Claire.
Yeah, so we're investigating this incident. It was by fire, and again it was last night. It occurred at a derelict property on Trusk Road, Ballybofey. The alarm was raised in relation to the blaze at approximately 9:35 p.m. So the fire services were at the scene for a number of hours battling this fire, but thankfully nobody was hurt in it. The scene is being preserved and a full examination will be carried out today. The property in question will be known to locals. It was home to a music school in its day, and the whole community would know the building in question. It's been vacant for a number of years now, but we're appealing for the assistance of the public and locals in relation to any sightings of people in or around the property in question at any stage yesterday evening or last night. We're given approximate times of 7 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. But if anyone's seen anyone hanging around it, let us know. Or if anyone was travelling in that area, so the Trusk Road, Navanny Street, or the link road between the Donegal Road and Trusk Road, with the dash cam at any stage yesterday evening or last night, we asked them to make the footage available to us. And if anyone can assist with this investigation, please contact us in Letterkenny again on 0749167 And of course the Garda confidential line is also there as well. That's 1800 666 111.
Okay, now criminal damage being investigated at McMahon Villas.
Yeah, so the Gardaí here in Letterkenny are appealing for information into this criminal damage. It happened in the area of McMahon Villas, Letterkenny. Again, this one was last night at approximately 11 p.m. A glass panel on a front door of a property was smashed at that location. So we appeal to anyone who was in the area who may have observed the incident or activities in the area to make the contact with us. As always, if anyone was there with dashcam footage, we'd like to hear from you just to check if you could have picked up anything at all. So we'd ask you to make contact with Letterkenny Garda Station again on 074 916 7100.
And a criminal damage investigation launched in Greencastle too, Claire.
Yeah, so this one occurred at Milltown Harbour, Greencastle, between 4 p.m. on Saturday the 27th of January and 10 a.m. on Sunday the 28th. A vehicle that had been parked at that location between those hours had both wing mirrors removed from the car. So we appeal to anyone who was in the area who may have observed suspicious activity to make contact with Gardaí in Buncrana on 074 93 205 40.
Okay, and Culdaff now, a shed targeted again and equipment stolen, unfortunately.
Yeah, so this is a burglary that occurred in the area of Crora, Culdaff, between 2:30 a.m. on Monday last and 6 p.m. on Thursday. A shed at a house was entered at that location, and an orange Husqvarna petrol chainsaw was stolen from it. The shed had an open front, so there was no damage caused. We're interested in speaking to anyone who may have observed suspicious activity in that area between those dates to give Gardaí and Buncrana a ring on 074 93 205 40. And again, the confidential line is there as well.
1-800-666-111. Now, people may have heard reports of this a little earlier on in the week, but obviously it's a formal investigation by Gardaí in Stranraer.
Yeah, so there was a large quantity of building materials and construction steel stolen from a yard at Meeting House Street, Stranraer, on Thursday the 11th of January. So we're going back a bit. But on the 11th of January, between the 11:30 a.m. and 12:40 p.m. Among the items stolen was a grey galvanised steel roller door, which is approximately 15 foot in length, a yellow gantry crane beam, 36 foot long, and approximately 5 ton of steel, including H-iron girders, approximately 30 foot long. So CCTV is being collected and examined from the area, but we want to appeal to anyone who travelled in the area of Meeting House Street, Stranraer, or along the main street in Stranraer or Balbafay, and particularly anyone with dashcam footage, between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. on the 11th of January, to make footage available to us. We're particularly interested in any dashcam footage or sightings of a Mercedes rigid truck with a green cab and a high-ab crane attached in the area on that date, between those times, to give Gardaí in Letterkenny a call on 074 916 7100 or the confidential line 1-800-666-111.
Yeah, I can't remember an appeal in all the time we've been doing this that would have required or would have included so much weight of material, difficult stuff to move and what have you, but good description on potential vehicle. But it's the 11th of January, so people are going to have to wreck their heads. A lot of that stuff quite distinctive. They would have seen it, they just have to put the picture together in their mind. It's
something that definitely would have been noticed, but people would have probably assumed to have been genuine and innocent. So we just ask people to think back if they seen such things, or even the green cab as well.
Quite distinctive.
Just if you can remember anything at all, please do give us a call.
There could be long distance drivers or lorry drivers around the country that even it could trigger a memory with them. Who is to say? Right, well, fingers crossed, because that's a big loss for any business. Any loss is, but of course that's really quite significant. Theft from a business in Letterkenny now, more recently, the 28th of January.
Yeah, so we're appealing for the assistance of the public in relation to an incident that occurred at a shop on the Circular Road, Letterkenny, on Sunday gone. 2 women entered the shop and proceeded to fill a trolley load of goods before leaving without paying for them in a red Skoda Jeep. We're appealing to road users, especially anyone with dashcam footage, who were in the Glencar or Circular Road area of Letterkenny on Sunday between 4 p.m. and 4:30 p.m. to make the footage available to us. If anyone can assist with any relevant information, we ask them to ring Letterkenny on 074 916 7100.
Now, there's a weekend assault in Letterkenny.
Yeah, so we're appealing for witnesses to this assault that occurred at Lower Main Street, Letterkenny on Sunday, 28th of January at approximately 11:40 p.m. One man is believed to have been assaulted by another at that location. The injured man was taken to Letterkenny University Hospital to receive medical treatment. His injuries are not believed to be life-threatening in nature. The second man left the area with a number of others in a vehicle that had been parked at Lower Main Street. So we're appealing to anyone who witnessed the incident or these people driving away to make contact with us. We appeal to drivers who have dashcam footage or who travelled down Lower Main Street between 10 p.m. and midnight last Sunday night to make the footage available to Garda. And again, we can be contacted in Letterkenny on 074 916 7100.
Okay, and particularly maybe in an incident like that, the confidential line might be useful as well, 1800 666 111. Now, this next appeal, the last appeal, in fact, is in relation to a road traffic collision in Carndonagh.
Yeah, now this one's going back to the 19th of December, but we got a report of it this week. So on the 19th of December, between 3:30 p.m. and 4:05 p.m, a road traffic collision occurred at the Diamond in Carndonagh. A blue Audi A4 was parked up, and when the owner returned, they discovered that damage had been caused to the front right-hand side bumper. Now, there was a note left on the windscreen of the damaged car, but unfortunately the writing was illegible because of the rain. So we're appealing to the driver involved to please make contact with Garda in Buncrana on 074 93 20540. Just so the matter can be resolved. They tried to...
So they already did the right thing,
they
but
did.
The weather intervened, and this is an opportunity just to say...
This is us just trying to reach out.
So if you left that note on a blue Audi A4 on the 19th of December 2023, the note was unreadable. Get in contact with the Garda in Buncrana 93 20 540, and the matter can be put to bed. Right, we are heading into a bank holiday weekend now. St. Bridget's Day is on Thursday, so a great day for all the Bridgets out there. But unfortunately, again, Claire, we know statistically, and sometimes we can sound like scratched records, but statistically, we do see an increase in serious injury and death on our roads over these periods. So it would be remiss of us not to get the warnings out there, Claire.
Absolutely. Bank holiday weekends are one of the busiest periods on Irish roads. They're also one of the periods where road users are at the highest risk of being involved in a fatal or a serious road traffic collision. So we wish to issue our usual road safety appeal to all road users ahead of the upcoming St. Bridget's Bank Holiday weekend. We urge all road users to please use the roads responsibly. Drivers are urged to slow down, wear their seatbelt, and not to drive while under the influence of alcohol and or drugs. And do not use or hold your mobile phone while driving. Remember, if you have been drinking, you may not be safe to drive the next morning. Don't risk it. That's an important one to remember there as well. Always be on the lookout for cyclists and pedestrians and drive at a safe speed. As always, Garda will be out on the roads over the course of the weekend conducting high visibility checkpoints and speed checks. We hope that everyone has a safe and enjoyable weekend. We want to come through it without any serious accidents
and any
or
of those
anything
knocks
like
on
that.
the doors and yeah, hopefully. And you know, the life is so fleeting sometimes. You know, you can have a situation whereby you're going about your life and everything is fine, and one slight mistake by you or someone else, and you know, you're going out on a Friday evening and next thing you're on the obituary notices on a Monday. I don't want to sound harsh or cruel in relation to that, but that's exactly what these types of appeals try and avoid, and the heartache that comes along with that. And as I say, you know, there's also the risk of serious and life-changing injuries, which happen all the time, but we don't hear quite as much, and we don't necessarily have the exact figures on. So the whole idea is to avoid that, Claire, as best as we can.
Sounds harsh, but it is the reality. It happens all the time, unfortunately, and we just ask people to take extra care to try and avoid these kind of incidents. For sure.
Right, the clock is ticking if you want to join Claire and her ranks as a Garda. Obviously the age criteria and what have you has been extended, so there might be more interested. As I say, though, that deadline is looming, Claire.
Yeah, so the closing date for applications to join in Garda Síochána is 3 p.m. on Thursday the 8th of February. So the way you apply is go on to www.publicjobs.ie and you go through it all there. Garda recruitment information event is actually being held at Letterkenny Garda Station on Thursday, coming at 6 p.m. to 8 p.m, where refreshments will be served, and everyone is welcome. If you have any questions, anything like that, in relation to the training process, or if you'd like to speak to guards and trainee Gardaí before they make their decision, then we'd invite you to come along, and we'll be happy to answer all of the questions if anyone has any in relation to the current recruitment campaign. They're of course welcome to call to any Garda station at any stage, and we'll be happy to help. As you said, the age has been extended, so applications are welcome from those aged between 18 to 50.
I feel so welcome.
Well, come on and join us.
I'd be afraid if I went up to the front desk and be like, no.
We'd never do that.
No, of course not. All right, okay. So you've a week and 2 days. Garda Claire Rafferty from the Milford Garda Station, thank you so very much indeed. And we'll have that item for you again. Of course, all the appeals featured across our webpage and across our news bulletins, and it'll be available for you to re-watch on our Facebook page, Highland News and Sport, and on Garda Síochána Facebook page a little later on this afternoon. And it's back live with you after the 10 o'clock news next Tuesday.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com.
The 9 till noon show with O'Hara's of Foxford. It took us 72 years to perfect our deliciously authentic Baker 51 sourdough bread. One bite and you'll agree true taste takes time.
If you have a job to do over the weekend, Watson Hire have a brilliant weekend hire deal available. Get any item on Friday, keep it until Monday, and only pay for 1 day's hire. That's 3 days hire on any equipment or machinery for the price of one. So there's no excuse to get the job sorted. To book, call Watson Hire in Letterkenny on 9167777.
It's the sale of the century at Milford Tiles. Unbelievable deals now on. 20% off all tiles and bathware in store. Free standard underlay with all wooden floors. Fitters and delivery service available. That's Milford Tiles. Big January sale now on. Call 083 091 0707.
Return, refund, recycle. Ireland's deposit return scheme is coming. From the 1st of February 2024, when you buy a drink in a bottle or can with the return logo, you'll pay a small deposit. Once you're refreshed, return your empty, undamaged bottle or can to any shop or supermarket and get your deposit back. The result? Less litter, less waste, and better recycling for Ireland. For more, visit return.ie.
Winter sale now on at Cherrymore Kitchens and Bedrooms. 10% off all purchases for a limited period. T's and C's apply. See in store. Book a free consultation today in our Donegal Town showroom on 074 97 25 822. Luxury kitchens and bedrooms at affordable prices. Expect more and get more at Cherrymore Kitchens and Bedrooms.
Nettle Horse is musical, magical, very, very funny, and like myself, a wee bit odd. It's about a man selling edible beetles at a horse fair in 2028 and a woman who just got planning permission to build a pyramid. Nettle Horse by Little John Nee, Saturday the 3rd of February. Tickets at ungraining.com.
You're very welcome back to the 9 till noon show. 086 60 25,000 is the WhatsApp and text number, or give us a call on 074 91 25,000. The caller says there's nothing worse for biodiversity than the blanket forests planted by quilcher, which kill every other plant for thousands of acres. Another, people leaving farming, it is because there's very little income, so much red tape, no guarantee of prices, hard life in all weather conditions. The cap system is another way at getting farmers out of farming. Look at it. It was 80% of payments were going to 20% of the farmers. How could they keep going? They have the same living costs. Parents are warning them to leave the land and get a job. It is said that 60,000 farmers are over 50 years of age. Another 50,000 are over 60 years of age. It said that in 10 years or less, there'll be loads of land that no people will want, as most of the older generation will be gone and retired. The government are clueless when they cannot see the reality. If the cap payments were favourable to the most needy, but they're the opposite. The co-ops want large scale, so as they fill a lorry of milk in a couple of yards. It's the same with ration and fertilisers. This greed will catch them shortly when all these big farms, no person will want them. Thank you very much for that comment. Right, now, as you heard an appeal there was a fire in Ballybofey, and it was at a property that has an awful lot of memories for an awful lot of people. I think I can count you, Dennis, amongst those. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Greg. How are you? Thank you very much for having me on.
No, it's good to have you on, Denise. So tell us about what you know of or remember this house. It was, many people seem to be commentating, bringing back memories of musical lessons.
Absolutely. This was the house of May and Frances Mulrine, who taught. May was a legend in the Finn Valley. I think she taught from about the 1960s onwards. I think she, possibly beforehand. But chances are, in the Finn Valley area, the very wide Finn Valley area, if you sang for a living, if you spoke for a living, or if you play music, chances are you came in contact with May. Because for a couple that had no children, the house never emptied from morning to night. We were taught piano, we were taught singing, we were taught speech and drama, or poems as we called it. And literally, I know I'm among so many who owe such a great debt of gratitude. Francis owned a drapery shop and on Main Street and Ballybofey, and he also owned a furniture shop. And when he would come home at the end of a long day, the cacophony of sound that just met him from other people's children, especially coming up to feches, coming up to concerts, coming up to exams. Mays was also used as the local exam centre for the Royal Irish Academy of Music. So literally there were cars parked out there morning, noon and night. And just the work ethic that she gave us, the love of music that she gave us, we owe her so much, so many of us. Even those, you might be working in music now, you might be working something completely different, but the gifts that she gave with a heart and a half, it's very, very difficult to quantify.
And it makes it all the more sad to see the property go out like this.
It is. Now, in recent years, Francis died in February 2004, and May followed him in July 2005. So that was the end of sort of an era then, and the house sort of fell into disrepair at that point and had been attracting some antisocial behaviour. But for those of us before that, like there were people in their very early 30s that would remember that house as a pure hive of music and of creativity and of arts. And it was our second home for so many of us. Like if you didn't work in music, you might remember the garden with the pond in it, or there was a circle in the middle. A friend of mine called it a Greek garden. It was like a stone circle, or maze roundabout as we called it, because the cars would go in, park and go round it and go out again. She had antiques. She had the good sitting room where the exams were held, and the examiners were buttered up to there was nothing she wouldn't do for her kids. And we were literally, it was so much more than a once a week lesson. You could be in every day coming up to either fashes or exams, and you were taken into the good sitting room. The examiners weren't just given a table to write on, they were given a writing bureau. There were the good carpet, the good piano where there's a shine off it. You could see the examiner behind you. There was nothing. The baked goods would have been either baked or brought in, so that the examiners would be listening to us with a very sympathetic ear. There was nothing that wasn't done that she wouldn't do for her kids.
And with that level of traffic in the house and activity, both May and Francis, obviously very patient people.
Oh, poor Francis. Francis would come in after a day's work and be dispatched to the local takeaways for the dinner, because May wouldn't honestly have the time to look at them. And he would have hordes of us trundling through his house, past him, trying to eat his dinner in peace, on the way to the good sitting room. And this could be from morning to night. You know, like say if you were a student, Greg, and you needed an extra lesson because you weren't going to be ready for your exam, and this did happen, May would be very kind of apologetically asking your mum, you know, is there any way you could come tomorrow, or is there any other day you could come this week? And I'm very, very sorry. And she would, you know, I don't think we were ever charged for those extra lessons, and it was purely for your good. May's laser focus was her students, and like poor Francis came in with chips, and if she happened to catch a child looking a wee bit hungry, Francis, give Denise some of your chips there. You know, there was, and poor Francis never turned the word in her mouth, and he supported her in everything, you know, she did. And as I say, they were very remarkable for a couple who had no kids. They half reared half the Finn Valley, and the reason maybe she's not better known is she would definitely be known legendary in music circles, but you know, she was modest to a fault. Yeah. I only have one photo of May because she wouldn't stand still long enough to let you take a photo of her. They were such a kind couple. They had no children of their own, but as I say, they had we were their children, really, all of us. And there's hundreds of us. There really are over the years.
And the motivation wasn't money?
No. And I've been reliably informed, you know, you only hear these things years later. Yeah. I've been reliably informed that, say, for example, if someone had maybe stopped coming to lessons, you know, as piano lessons, I suppose, it's not it's a bit of a luxury in so much, but May, you know, someone stopped coming, May had been known to go up to speak discreetly, and this would have been done very discreetly to Mammy or to whoever, to say, you know, listen, if there's an issue with the money, don't worry about that. Keep sending them. That would have been the motivation. And we would never have known that. That would never have been done outside the four walls. You know, there would have been no public humiliation of anybody. It would have been done totally discreetly. And so many of us were given opportunities. And you know, I know I owe her an awful lot. And it was purely done with the passion of passing on the love of music, the love of singing, the love of, you know, there honestly, there are so many people in so many walks of life who owe a great debt of gratitude to me and to Francis.
Obviously, you know, the house had fallen into disrepair, and we'd often got reports of I suppose you could group it as antisocial behaviour in the area. The Garda investigation is ongoing as to the cause of the fire, but it's happened now. The memories remain. Is there an opportunity here for, seemingly, the loads and loads of people that have such fond memories to sort of honour May and Francis in some way or other? Perhaps that's already being done or has been done, but this awful fire seems to have sort of, you know, brought them back into the forefront of people's minds again.
It has. Now funny, I must say, at the time, there was a feist done in Ballybofey by Ursula Lafferty and Roisin Quinn. There was a cup, the May Mulrine Memorial Cup and the Francis Mulrine Memorial Cup. Those ladies who worked with May also they did Trojan work. But yes, you're right. Like we in the Finn Valley, there's Francis Brown, there's Isaac Butt, and they're kind of legends in the Finn Valley. For a big chunk of people, no one did more for them than May Moraine. And yes, I don't think she ever got the recognition she deserved in life. Partly, like maybe the times weren't as enlightened, and partly because she was so painfully modest. She would have squirmed. Exactly. Oh, she would have squirmed. But yes, now I have honestly no idea. My organisational abilities would be very slim. But yeah. Sort of a memorial to me,
recognised at the council or whatever it might be, because as I say, it's taken. I'm not saying that the memories were always there within people. It's just taken something like this to sort of to get these great people spoken about. May obviously amazingly committed to the children, and the long-suffering Francis as well.
I tell you, he was so patient with us. Poor Francis would fall asleep in the chair after the dinner with the cacophony of music and coming out of several rooms. Honestly, he was so patient with us, and that involved maybe taking us to, like, there was buses of us going to Sligo Fesh before this. I think it was the Derry Fesh, and in later years then the Strabane Fesh. Poor Francis had to sit through performance after performance of kids that had nothing to do with him, if you get me. Yeah. And he never complained.
I think there's a wee secret amongst a lot of us fellas, is that we do like busy, noisy houses, and it makes us happy and content. So maybe Francis was as of that type, but we don't often like to admit it either. We like to the praise of our patients. All right, Denise, listen, thank you so much for the lovely memories, which is so important. And maybe someone out there will pick up the mantle, and something more permanent can be done to remember these great people. Have a lovely day, Denise. I really enjoyed speaking to you, and thanks for painting such a vivid picture of these lovely people.
Thank you very much for having me.
Take care. Bye-bye, Denise. Councillor Patrick McGowan, good morning to you, Patrick. Lovely to hear.
Good morning, Greg.
The memories that this property has evoked and reminded people of, but we are also dealing with a potential investigation here into arson, and the fire service quickly on scene. You never know how these things can pan out, but thankfully no one injured.
Yeah, I have memories myself, my own family. We all went in there to learn the piano. I didn't last very long, but I did spend a while in there, and I think everybody about the town and for their field. I always over the years when I'm made around, and many successful musicians probably in the county and Weatherfield probably started off on there. So we do all have memories going in that house, and it was probably quite unusual at the time. I think the problem is now, I'm not sure about the ownership, but it's certainly there has been concerns for a while, maybe going back for 10, 15, 20 years, about young lads running around that building there. The grounds weren't secured and out of the house, and that's no way to condone what happens. It's an absolutely disgrace in a time of a housing crisis for someone to burn anybody's property, but it had been well flagged up. The Garda were in and out there, if not every day, every week, trying to keep young people away now. And, it's a reminder to other property owners, not just to seal up the buildings, but the grounds itself, because if somebody went on and hurt themselves, and young lads climbing on roofs and stuff, somebody's going to be held responsible. And but it's an absolute tragedy. Everybody in the town is absolutely shocked and raging when this reports were coming out last night. Now it's terrible.
Sorry, I beg your pardon. I didn't have my microphone up. Just on to the conversation there with Denise. Is there an opportunity maybe to turn this negative into a positive, and maybe come up with some way to remember and recognise May and Francis and their contribution to seemingly so many people, Patrick?
Yeah, absolutely. And I had a few people suggesting that to me even earlier this morning, like as you said, to turn it in, because like we're just there proposals the last day, but the old fire station's in order. There was houses were there, and they want people propose now to call it Rosebud. So certainly this is one of the nicer things that we'd like to remember on the town, and residents that have been there before, and people that contributed so much to businesses within the town. They had several businesses, the Marines, and it's may paid such a big part to the music of the whole county. So certainly it's something that I'm sure the Historical Society and a few others would take on board, and we as councillors can work on them.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Hopefully the Garda investigation is speedy, and whoever, if it turns out to have been started by people, deliberately or otherwise, that they're dealt with, because no community wants that happening. It doesn't serve anyone. Councillor McGowan, thank you very much indeed. Councillor Patrick McGowan there. Denise Roper is the best lady to talk about the impact May Mulryan had on our lives. We're extremely saddened this morning to see the destruction left behind, but the legacy May left behind is incredible. Denise herself is testament to that, as are many others. That comes in from Aoife Boyce. Indeed, I agree with everything you said there, Aoife. Fond memories of May. What a contribution to music and drama and influence on so many of us as students. Tony from the Beefsteak Dancers, and feel free to come on and reminisce as well, by the way, if you wish. And we can turn this difficult situation into something to remember. Great people, clearly, which we're doing at the moment. Well done to that speaker, Denise. Read them all Ryans. They were a beautiful couple who opened their home to so many budding musicians. It's really quite heartwarming to read these comments. The building is being used by young people as a derelict building to party in. Something needs to be done about it. We, the local community, are sick talking about it, indeed, and we have received correspondence about that in the past. Unfortunately, in terms of its use as that type of a building, perhaps no longer. But what happens to that site next? That's for another day, perhaps.
The 9 till noon show with O'Hara's of Foxford. It takes 18 hours to perfect our new 18-hour fermented sourdough bread. One bite and you'll agree true taste takes time.
Sailor Bill returns to the Ballard Theatre on Saturday the 3rd of February. A night of music and crack with special guest Chelsea Evans. Tickets are €15, are available on the Ballard website at ballardartcentre.com or by calling to the Ballard Theatre front desk.
Enhance your skills with SafeTech's part-funded training programs. At SafeTech, we provide courses including first aid, roadworks, people moving and handling, confined spaces, electrofusion and machinery training for Ireland and UK sites. Also online programs such as water hygiene, construction supervisors, safety reps and much more. If you have a group for training, SafeTech will go to you. Contact SafeTech today at safetech.ie and take the first step towards upskilling and safety compliance.
If you need a new laptop, enjoy super fast performance and seamless multitasking with Avita laptops at Ben Sweeney Euronics. Avita laptops are equipped with advanced processors and ample RAM, so they handle everything from work to entertainment with ease. They come with a 2-year warranty and prices starting at only €449. For more details, pop in and see us at Ben Sweeney Euronics, Port Road, Letterkenny, or in the shopping centre, Dunlow.
Own your car from the start. At B&S Credit Union, you can do just that with a flexible and affordable car loan. Our friendly and experienced team will make the loan process easy and will be delighted to help you. Visit bnscu.ie or free phone 1800 290 390. Loans are subject to approval, terms and conditions apply. B&S Credit Union Limited is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Highland Radio weather updates brought to you by Grant. Building a new home? Choose Grant's A++ rated Airona air-to-water heat pump and Uflex underfloor heating. Visit grant.ie.
As I'm sure was mentioned on the Naughty Alarm Clock with Lee Gooch this morning, some pockets of black ice out there this morning. It's the worst because the car was reading 2 degrees and then you come on this black ice, you could get very easily caught out. So hopefully none of you did this morning. But most of that hopefully now is cleared to leave a mostly dry day with just the chance of an isolated shower. Low winter sunshine, which is a nightmare when you're driving, in just light southwest breezes. A chilly day though, temperature 7 to 9 degrees. But if it stays bright and relatively calm, I will take 7 to 9 degrees all day and twice on a Sunday. Just a heads up for you, read the NCT. I put my car through the NCT today. My car was registered on the 28th of January 2014. I couldn't book a slot for the NCT until today, the 29th. If I had booked it in last week, I would have gotten 2 years for the NCT as the car was under 10 years. I lost out because of the weekend and the car is now over 10 years. I couldn't get an appointment for any other time. Please don't make the mistake I made and miss out by a few days, you won't get your 2-year NCT and you'll only get a year's NCT. That seems unfair to me, because is the NCT not backdated to when your last NCT expired? So you would have thought, if that were the case, that you should get your 2 years. Also, if you were trying to book it online, that can be problematic. But if you call up the NCT, particularly after midnight, because they kind of reset the computers, and I hope I'm not giving away any trade secrets here, if you phone up just after 12, you are far more likely to get a more sooner NCT test. That's tried and tested, by the way. But as I say, that seems unfair, because if the NCT starts the day of the last one, if it's backdated, then you should still get your 2 years. Anyone have any information on that, by the way, for that caller? 086 60 25,000. Please tell Greg I have his parcel, and if he sends me some money to pay for my dying husband's hospital bills, I'll send it on to him, LMAO. Right, that sounds good to me. That came in yesterday. Now, do you want me to just send you money, or shall I just give you my bank details and you can take out as much as you need? No problem, we can do that. We can work on it. Hi, Greg. I get these scam messages all the time from on post. The mum and dad phone broke ones, Bank of Ireland plus 3 Mobile. I've never, ever been with Bank of Ireland or 3 Mobile, but you see, it's when you have been, that's when they get you. Now, I don't know if it's my phone. I've got like a Poco, it's an Indian phone, and I'm with Gomo. I don't get any spam, straight into the spam folder. So I don't know if it's the network or the phone, but I just don't even see them. I'm not exposed to them at all, which is a good thing. And it seems pretty accurate, because I've not missed messages either. Right, let's take a quick break to edge us closer to the news at 11 o'clock.
The 9 till noon show with O'Hara's of Foxford. It took us 72 years to perfect our deliciously authentic Baker 51 sourdough bread. One bite and you'll agree true taste takes time.
The world is getting a little more. But maybe more could mean something else. More means more proactive green energy solutions. More means more wind turbines and more recycling. More means more biodiversity and more energy storage. More means more hydrogen and more solar farms, because more clean energy means more efficient living, means more thriving communities, means more energy autonomy. That's why we're more than Mona. Learn more at morethanmona.ie. Ford na Mona.
Let BizPrint the printers help with your business marketing and printing to get your 2024 off to the right start. BizPrint the printers, Port Road, Letterkenny. Call 9177 955 or see bizprint.ie.
The way you eat a cream egg says everything about you. If you eat yours in small nibbles, that means you're real deep. You can sense when someone's about to text you. Your dreams mean stuff, and you keep all your birthday cards in a special box. Search Cream Egg Test to find out who you really are. Cadbury Cream Egg. How do you eat yours?
Save on carving and lamin essentials at Homeland. Gas Buddings debutter now €165. Milk Bar 10 compartment feeder now €179. Nutrius Ovigold and Bovigold mineral range, buy 2.5 litre, get 1 litre free. And there's 10% off the FlexiThin Classic waterproof jacket and trousers in store and online at homeland.ie. Nationwide delivery available. Offers available until March 31st.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
Okay, it is 11 o'clock. Let's get that news update now, and it's over to Michaela Clark.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. The Dáil's Housing Committee is to hold a hearing next month on the defective blocks crisis, with Sinn Féin's housing spokesperson saying he believes the Housing Minister's optimism about the revised scheme is misplaced. Ona Bryn says Minister Darragh O'Brien said yesterday that the new scheme is working and taking hold, but the Minister's own department's figures suggest that's not the case, with many people not even applying for the scheme because the gap between the cost of remediation and what's on offer from government is too great. Investigations are continuing after a child was hit by a car in Letterkenny yesterday evening. The vehicle was travelling from the Polestar roundabout towards Ballyreen when it struck the 12-year-old boy at around 6:55 p.m. He was taken to Letterkenny University Hospital for treatment to his injuries, which are not believed to be life-threatening. Meanwhile, Garda are appealing for information on any sightings of people in the vicinity of a fire at a vacant house in Ballybuffet last night. The blaze broke out at a former music school on the Trusk Road, which has been lying vacant for a number of years, at around 9:30 p.m. A forensic and technical examination of the scene is being carried out today. The Taoiseach has described the restoration of power sharing in the north as positive news, but wants to see more detail. The DUP has accepted a deal from the UK government, which will see trading rules relaxed for any goods brought into Northern Ireland that are set to remain there. Garda are appealing for witnesses to a weekend assault in Letterkenny. A man was attacked by another man in the Lower Main Street area on Sunday at around 11:40 p.m. The second man is believed to have left the scene with a number of others in a vehicle that had been parked at Lower Main Street. Threshold assisted 108 adults and 72 children in Donegal, preventing them from becoming homeless in the last quarter of 2023. The housing charity says it responded to over 12,000 queries across the country for help between October and December. The Justice Minister says she's taking steps to make sure Ireland's international protection system is not clogged up. Algeria and Botswana are to be added to the list of so-called safe countries. It means the government doesn't think people there are at risk of inhumane or degrading treatment. And refurbishment works are to be carried out at Bank of Ireland's Falcara branch as part of a €60 million national investment. Improvement works will be carried out at branches across the country, along with the bank's largest single investment in ATMs in the last decade. Those are the latest headlines. We'll be back with an update again at 12 noon.
Thanks, Michaela.
Let's join Steve live for the build-up. What's your prediction?
I've been watching this team for a very long time, Gary, and I can tell you now, the score will be 3-1, there'll be over 9 corners, and the French lad will score a header.
Very specific, Steve.
It's Bet Builder from LiveScore Bet, pal. You can combine markets from thousands of options to create your own bet. Or, if you can't make up your mind, choose from the pre-built quick bet options.
Which is exactly what you did, isn't it? Bet Builder from LiveScore Bet. Building a bet just got easier. Full account terms apply. Bet responsibly. 18 plus gamblingcare.ie.
A caller says, another scam I see coming through regularly. E-flow, you've been recorded using the motorway and so on and so forth. Excuse me, please. Another scam. Get that one all the time. That being said, it doesn't have to come in text. I did get a letter once stating that I had used a road which I hadn't used. And it comes by way of a letter with a photo, and I think I had to go into the Garda station. I did have to go into the Garda station and declare that I wasn't on the road. Someone had duplicated my plates or something. Hi, Greg. Could you please say congratulations to Carrick Brack, British Frisians, John Allen Convoy, for winning first and second in the Best Frisian Heifer category at the National IHFA Awards in Portlaoise last Friday. Congratulations to you, John. Morning, Greg. Vinny here. I am a DPD driver and I get scam messages about my undelivered parcels from DPD. Just to let your listeners know, you will only get a text from us to tell you the time we'll be delivering your parcels and the name of your driver. Never click on any links ever. So that's Vinny, who some of you might know. He's a podcaster as well and a DPD driver. He gets messages about undelivered parcels. All right, strange one. Okay, we want to make sure that we stay on top of one of the big issues of the last month, and that was a threat to the future of counselling services at the Rafo Diocesan Pastoral Centre. You'd be familiar, hopefully, at this point with this story. They provide the only child and adolescent counselling services in this county. It's pretty much unprecedented across the country. They've engaged with many, many people and continue to do so. They've got a team of almost 30 counsellors, and it was suggested previously that they were on the brink of closure because the current director is stepping away. A new director needs to be appointed. Because of the scale of the operation, that director would need to be full-time because there's a lot of hoops to jump through in terms of governance and what have you. So in the first instance, it's estimated that to keep these services going would cost around about €60,000. But of course, there's more to it than that. And there's other boxes that perhaps might need to be ticked. And there needs to be an overall conversation about the future of this service to make sure it's never lost. And it may require a little bit more money than that. So we wanted to bring you an update as to where we are at. So we have Liam Cannon, the Director of Counselling at the Rafo Diocesan Pastoral Centre, with us on the programme. Liam, thank you very much for rejoining us again.
Yeah, good morning, Greg.
Right, so in terms of publicity, there's not an awful lot more you can do. This has been talked about in the Dáil. Ministers have been questioned about this.
Yes.
The HSE have commented on it. TUSLA have commented on it. We have the councillors passing motions this week to ensure that these services can't be lost. So in terms of all the players and those with influence, it seems everybody is on board. So is there any update in terms of these services going forward, Liam?
Well, yeah, Greg, as I said, the support that the services have received over the last, 3 weeks in particular, since this all happened, has been overwhelming, because I think people in the county have really got behind the services, because there's very few people around the county that at this stage are not aware of them and know the value of the work that's done. So yes, there is an update actually. This week the HSE and TUSLA are to meet on Thursday, and I suppose the background to that is that the HSE has been having their own meetings internally to see how they can come on board, and now they're joining up with TUSLA in the hope to come up with a joint package to be able to kind of come back to us next week, next Tuesday, hopefully this day week, and sit with us and open the conversation about how to put supports of core staff in place so that the service can continue and build over the next 20 years, really, because I think that's the bit that's important. It's about not just digging it out of a hole, but kind of looking forward to what's needed in order to maintain it and allow it to grow. So, I mean, for us, that's excellent news at this stage. It's a completely different picture from what we had. There's a long way to go yet in terms of, well, let's see what we can do and what's put on offer to us. But we're certainly delighted that people are at this point coming to talk to us, whereas the reason we were closing in the first place is because nobody would talk to us at that point.
Yeah, indeed, and they have been brought to the table. And in fairness, we all would have liked a quick fix, but when we're talking about a long-term solution to this, TUSLA has been burnt in the past, so it has to ensure what is required, that there's no financial skeletons in the closet, nothing being not disclosed, but you know what I mean, in terms of actually, well, what kind of a financial commitment will we have to make multi-annually? So I understand that they have to go through that and seek further information, and clearly they've been satisfied that everything is grand in that regard. So we've got the HSE and the TUSLA meeting this week to engage, and then from there they are going to meet with representatives from the counselling service next Tuesday. So the direction of traffic is a very positive one, and it seems that those that need to be taking an interest in this are now. What are you able to relate at this point to your staff, for an example? Because I know you're having to temper your conversation with us. Is it the same type of messaging that you give to your staff?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the same messaging that we're giving to our staff, because we really don't know any more than that, and we would only be speculating if we were to say any more than that at the moment, because we, as I say, we don't know ourselves. But for us, the positive development here is that we have two organisations coming together, TUSLA, the HSE, and then they're coming to us with the view to resolving the matter. And so, I'd love to at this point be able to say to the staff, look, we're out of danger, we're secure, we're home and dry, but until we meet with both those teams, we can't say that we can't say anything really. We can't solidly stand over. But just going back to what you were saying there, Greg, in relation to TUSLA having to kind of go through everything with us, that's perfectly reasonable, completely understandable, and very important that whatever they need, that we're able to supply to them, and that they're able to stand over. And I mean, TUSLA has been working with us for many years, and I think TUSLA are very aware that everything is up to date, but it's just a process that we have to go through.
Yeah, exactly. And as I say, it'd be remiss of TUSLA not to go through that. But as you say, there's an ongoing working relationship and all the ducks in a row, so that's not going to be a barrier. So whilst there has to be a little bit of caution here. There's certainly quite a good bit of room here, Liam, for positivity. And I think the meeting on Thursday and the meeting next week will have a much clearer picture. And hopefully the HSE have a more detailed response to go out to the public, because the last one is the statements TUSLA and HSE are very officey and what you might expect. No harm to them, but we want something that's a little bit more tangible and digestible to us regular folk.
Yeah, well, look, from what I understand, Greg, is that this plan has been put in place, and that the HSE themselves will be releasing a statement later this week. Now, I don't know what they will say in that statement, but I assume it's going to be basically what I'm saying to you now. And I suppose for the HSE, like TUSLA, they have to come and sit with us to kind of go through everything as well, which is, perfectly normal. We have no problem with that.
Okay, well, Liam, listen.
For us, it's about maintaining.
That's it, exactly. And
building
for the future.
It's about maintaining the service. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, building for the future.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Liam,
so it's good news so far.
Hopefully we'll chat again when we get the proper good news. But I just want to pay tribute to you, Liam, and how you've handled this. To get the message out there in a way that sort of got people listening, but at the same time did it in such a way where you didn't shut down lines of communication, because those were essential that were kept over. So I think you've walked a tightrope. But we'll not celebrate yet, Liam. I'll save the plaudits and what have you for when we have something more concrete. But for now, thanks so much for the update.
Yes. Well, thank you very much, Greg. Thank you.
All right, take care of yourself. Liam Cannon there, Director of Counselling at Rafo Dyson Pastoral Centre. And by the way, I just want to say as well, the situation hasn't been resolved yet. But people speaking out, Donna, the Bishop and others, have been incredibly important to this. Your communications that we've been able to read out. The HSE listen to this programme. TUSLA listen to this show. We know, because if you say something wrong, within about 5 seconds, you're pulled up on it. All of you who got involved in that and related your stories and the importance of this service and the impact it's had on you and your families, the impact it might have on you if it was discontinued, the fact that it's unacceptable that we could be treated in such a way. As I say, it's not over the line yet, but trust me when I say you out there as listeners who've had your say on this, be it on social media, but contacting us, whatever it might be, also, if it is achieved, if what it's hoped to be achieved is achieved, it's very important that you as well out there take your share of the praise. I don't know what the right word is. In relation to counselling, I've been through it about 3 times. It's most likely the person I'm here today. The government is throwing money at some ridiculous causes, and here is a vital service which needs support. We're on the brink of getting that support confirmed. Okay, so that's the one positive. But again, thank you so much for lending your voice to that. A memorial plaque for an RUC officer, which was stolen from a local graveyard, has been returned, but there is a new inscription on it. Terry Doherty is the brother of John Doherty, that RUC officer from Donegal. Thanks for joining me, Terry. I do appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on the show, Greg. And we've been down this road before, back in November, when spineless individuals invaded the graveyard to steal the memorial stone and a poppy wreath a week after the memorial service to honour John on the 50th anniversary of his murder by terrorists, and I state terrorists. If this is their way of showing how they behave, God luck to Ireland. They cut through the inscription on the stone, added their own propaganda, and if they think with me being on the radio today will add to their propaganda, it falls far short from my point of view, because you're nothing but spineless individuals, vandals, that would lower yourselves to carry out such an act. We have the stone, and it's on its way to the firm that supplied the memorial stone, and it will be refurbished and returned to its former glory. And we'll hold our heads high.
When I spoke to you in November, Terry, obviously you were, you were upset and angry with this plaque being removed. I don't know. I thought it would have been stolen, chucked somewhere, something terribly disrespectful. But for it to be returned with this new inscription, I can only begin to imagine what your emotions are, and I think you've actually really articulated them in the first couple of minutes of this conversation. But even you couldn't have imagined, could you, that this could turn up again and be defaced with this inscription as it has been?
Well, I think it's their way of trying to rub salt in the wound. And as a Catholic priest approached me yesterday to condemn it, every right-thinking person would actually condemn it as well. If they have to go to these extremes, and I won't broadcast the propaganda they had on the back of the stone after they cut through the inscriptions on the face of the stone. If this is their way of getting propaganda, it falls far short of my idea of propaganda. Again, if I could quote a famous Lord Kitchener and refer to these guys as spineless individuals, I quote Lord Kitchener, "Your country needs you," unquote. Yes, every community should have individuals, spineless individuals like this. And I can assure you, Greg, that when the stone is returned to its former glory, the evil hands of these spineless individuals will never again blemish or stain the memorial stone. That is for sure. And we have a few culprits in our minds, no names mentioned. And I would like to pay tribute to John and all his fallen colleagues, and as well members of the PSNI who have all paid the ultimate sacrifice. I recite a well-known verse in their honour. They shall not grow old, as we who are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them, we will remember them. And John will always be honoured and remembered for as long as there are Doherty in existence. They will never get the better of us. They can't win. When you carry out actions like this, as I said before, any right-thinking person would totally condemn it. Okay. Nothing but spineless individuals. And I'm sure they'll not try to vandalise the stone after this.
How can you be so assured of that, John? Oh, Terry, I beg your pardon.
Oh, yeah, you're okay. No problem, Greg. No problem. I won't go any further than that point, Greg.
No problem. Understood. Okay. Right, Terry. Listen, I'm sure you don't mind me accidentally calling you by your brother's name. You held him in such and hold him in such high regard. No. Okay, Terry.
No, you don't have to apologize.
No, I understand.
You don't have to apologize, Greg. You don't have to apologize.
All right, Terry.
No, just to get that.
No, you did, and it came across loud and clear. And just to remind listeners, by the way, that Detective Constable John Doherty was just 31 years of age when he was shot dead by the IRA on October 28th of 1973. He was visiting his widowed mum in Ballindrate, 5 minutes from the border, as anyone in the area would know. He was gunned down at the entrance to his mother's home. His girlfriend was also seriously injured in the attack, but nobody was ever convicted of the murder. Thankfully, his girlfriend did survive, but that plaque was defaced unceremonially. Well, I don't know what the right phraseology is. I don't want to misspeak in that regard. But anyway, obviously a great deal of upset to the Doherty family. But you heard the words of Terry Doherty there, and very strong in what he had to say. Okay, we will be back with a look at the developments in politics in Northern Ireland. That's after these.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio.
The 9 till Noon Show with O'Hara's of Foxford. It takes 18 hours to perfect our new 18-hour fermented sourdough bread. One bite and you'll agree true taste takes time.
Celebrate Pancake Tuesday with Dunnes Stores. Whip up a batch with fresh eggs, 6 for €1.40. Or choose an 8-pack of our ready-made pancakes for just €1.15. Then add your favourite toppings, like a sprinkle of sugar with 49-cent lemons, or chocolate and hazelnut spread. 400-gram jar, only €1.25. And for that finishing touch, you can save with a 5 off 25 grocery voucher. Dunnes Stores. Always better value. Terms and conditions apply. Voucher can be used on next in-store grocery shop of €25 or more.
The TUI Live Happy sale is here, with savings of up to €250 per booking. Free child places, even in the school summer holidays. Plus low booking deposits from €50 per person. With holidays to suit all budgets. Relax and get booking. TUI Live Happy. Offer T's and C's apply.
Mary here from the cosmetic department at McGee's Pharmacy to let you know that Clarence have a great skincare gift available this week. Buy 2 Clarence products, one to be skincare, and you'll get a choice of 4 treat size essentials from a selection of 8. Which 4 will you choose? This great Clarence offer is available until Saturday the 10th of February or while stocks last in store and online at mcgees.ie. And remember, for any skincare advice, you can always talk to Gemma or myself here at McGee's Chemist on Main Street, Letterkenny, where the best costs less.
The Euro Millions jackpot is an estimated €145 million. Play responsibly in-store, in-app or at lottery.ie. The National Lottery. It could be you.
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel Route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin when you book online and travel for less. Expressway, bringing you the time at...
The time's 22 minutes past 11. Now, the DUP has agreed a deal to restore power sharing in Northern Ireland after a 2-year impasse. The party executive were told back to deal overnight, though we don't know by what number, following an agreement with the UK government on post-Brexit trading. Sinn Féin leader Mary Lou McDonald says they'll now engage with the parties and both governments to ensure they all press on without delay. Party leader Jeffrey Donaldson said the arrangement should see the Assembly restored by the February 8th deadline. Anton McCabe is, of course, an incredibly well-known journalist, much of his time covering situation in Northern Ireland, and he joins us on the programme now. Good morning, Anton.
Good morning, Greg.
Thank you so much for joining us. Right, so last night was bizarre in that there was a great deal of secrecy as to where this meeting would even take place. And then we had, a person with a different point of view to Mr. Donaldson live tweeting from it, which created quite a bit of a stir within the building itself, because everyone was looking at each other to say, well, who's telling Jamie this information? Before we get on to sort of the nuts and bolts of what was agreed, it was really quite a bizarre evening.
Oh, it was, yes. And I mean, there is clearly an anti-agreement faction within the DUP. It's uncertain how big they are, but they are certainly significant and vocal. However, the logic of the situation has pushed Donaldson into an agreement. First of all, there is no alternative in that the DUP knows that direct rule is not in the interests of unionism. Direct rule means that the British government can basically do as it wishes. Very importantly and very immediately, an end to the executive and assembly means an end to salaries for the for DUP assembly and executive members, and obviously they are sensible enough to know that the current situation could not go on indefinitely. They even also know that by biding their time, Sinn Féin is only 3 seats ahead of them in the Assembly. They know that basically 1 or 2 bits of bad luck for Sinn Féin, a couple of bits of good luck for the DUP, and they could overtake them in terms of numbers in the next assembly. The numbers aren't out of sight. Also, as well, that Donaldson knew that he wasn't going to get the protocol or the Windsor House framework overturned. Those are international agreements between the British government and the European Union. The British government, particularly a Boris Johnson British government, sometimes may have made noises of sympathy for unionism, but will not break an agreement. Because we should remember that both Boris Johnson was the man who told the Unionists, that the DUP rather, that there was no way there would be an Irish Sea border, and he was the man who signed up to it.
But just in relation to that, Anton, and I don't want to interrupt your flow, I think that's what this is all going to come down to, because it seems to be that Jeffrey Donaldson is saying that there will be zero checks, zero customs, zero paperwork for goods moving from Britain to Northern Ireland. And if he can prove that, all well and good. But his opponents seem to be convinced that there's going to be a watering down of that and there will be some checks. So that means that he will not have delivered the removal of this sea border, as it's been commonly referred to now. And that could be a big problem for Jeffrey Donaldson. Could it be as simple as that it comes down to him stating that there will be zero checks, zero customs paperwork, and maybe there being some?
But, I mean, even pre the protocol, there were checks on certain goods between the North and Britain. Particularly livestock were checked. But I think really that given the complexity of these matters, I think, yes, that he can probably get away with it. It seems as if the talk is that there would be two lanes. There would be one lane, goods from Britain coming into Northern Ireland, and another lane for goods which were for transit to the EU. That is to the south. I think that yes, Donaldson can get away with it, and there is particularly the case. If we remember that the week before last, we were talking about the strikes here in the north.
Yeah.
There are major problems. The health service is facing a crisis. There are most public sector workers haven't received pay rises in a couple of years. They really have been used to blackmail the DUP. All of that means that an abstention is not a long-term tactic.
But Anton, the thing about it is though, this is being framed by, opposers of Jeffrey Donaldson as the surrender deal, that they have surrendered on the red lines, the principles. Now, as you say quite rightly, you can't abstain forever, but that's the sticky wicket Mr. Donaldson found himself in, isn't it? Because on one side, he was damned if he did, and on the other, now he's damned if he doesn't, if you know what I mean. So do you think this surrender deal terminology will catch on and threaten his leadership and maybe even the long-term establishment of the executive?
I think that the surrender slogan will catch on with a section of the probably, but mainly a section who are already alienated from the DUP. If we look at the last assembly and local elections. The TUV, Traditional Unionist Voice, did poll well. However, it did not poll near well enough to pose any threat to the DUP. The DUP have taken the decision that they can challenge these people. That's their belief. That to say they're a busted flush is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
However, to say that they are a minority, and really where for the DUP, their main vote losses are particularly towards Alliance, where you would have a section of Protestants, and maybe particularly middle-class Protestants, would be seeing, they would see this, as the best deal they can get.
Yeah.
It's quite simple. It's as in many negotiating situations. Certainly, you go for things, but equally, you understand that you go for the best deal you can get.
But Anton, just finally, an awful lot of conversation and talk about this deal. For some, it's going to be a really effectively a smokescreen for them not really being able to tolerate an executive that is led by Sinn Féin. Is that a bitter pill that will have to be swallowed and will be swallowed going forward?
Oh, yes, it is, because there certainly was a section motivated by that. But there are many intelligent people in the DUP, and they realise that by being seen to thwart a Sinn Féin First Minister by a manoeuvre serves to increase Sinn Féin support among the nationalist community, demoralise people within unionism, whereas in many ways they feel that they can wait, they can prepare for the next election, and possibly wrest the first minister's position back from Sinn Féin.
Mm-hmm. I get you. Anton, listen, thank you so much for your analysis. We really do appreciate it. That's journalist Anton McCabe there. And if you have your views, 086 60 25,000 from the north, 00353 86 60 25,000.
The 9 till noon show with O'Hara's of Foxford. We take 18 hours to craft our new 18-hour fermented sourdough bread. Now's the perfect time to enjoy a slice.
The menopause is a very inclusive condition. You don't have to get it to suffer from it.
Uncle D's hilarious show, How to Get the Menopause and Enjoy It, comes to on Green on Letterkenny, February the 2nd, and Bala at Centre Ballybuffet, February 17th.
I phoned up my mammy and I went, I'm thinking of HRT. And she said, what's wrong with the bank you're with?
For full details, go to angled.com.
It's the big brand sale at Super Value, and there's great special offers like selected Fairy and Ariel Pods 38 watt and Nicky toilet tissue 24 roll, any two for €16. Exclusive to Real Rewards members only. Plus money off vouchers every week on the app. So don't miss our big brand sale and pop in store or online for great savings at Super Value. T's and C's apply.
Homeowners, it's time to unlock incredible savings on your energy bills. Efficient Renewables is here to reduce your energy consumption, say goodbye to skyrocketing costs, and hello to renewable energy solutions. With no VAT on solar panels and the generous grants for both solar panels and heat pumps, see these innovative systems in action in our state-of-the-art showroom in Newton Cunningham today. Contact Efficient Renewables on 074 97 08320.
Fabric World Maydown Derry biggest ever winter sale now on trend and in stock curtain and upholstery fabrics all on sale. Over 3,000 metres now half price or less. Free curtain design ready-made curtains up to half price and lining from £1 with fabulous rates on the Euro in store at Fabric World Maydown Derry.
The ever-popular Bluegrass Festival returns to Ardra from Friday the 2nd to Sunday the 4th of February, featuring some of the finest bluegrass acts in the world. Direct from Nashville, this year's headline act is East Nash Grass, playing live in the Beehive Bar with special guests on Saturday the 3rd at 8:30 and Sunday the 4th at 7:30. Don't miss what promises to be an exceptional weekend of bluegrass in Ardra, Friday the 2nd to Sunday the 4th of February. For accommodation and more, see ardra.ie.
Join me, Marty Friel, every Friday night from 8 for Rockin' Hits on Highland Radio in association with Arena 7, where you can enjoy dinner and drinks in a Woodbury Grill, Bar and Restaurant before bowling in Arena 7's state-of-the-art lanes. See arena7.ie.
Caller says depopulation of people living in the countryside doesn't apply here in Ireland. In the countryside here, there will be hundreds of cars up and down the road every day. In England, you only see 4 cars in the countryside of farmers. Not quite sure about that. Okay. The big thing to watch on NCT is if you buy your car with no NCT and it's expired in 3 months and you go to get it sorted for the test, you only have whatever is left on the car unless they test it on the anniversary. You might not realise until you're at a checkpoint you need to watch the anniversary of the car, and that was the point I was saying about it being backdated, if I'm understanding you correctly. A caller says if you go to do your NCT online, you'll wait 6 months. If you ring up, you'll get seen quicker. It'll only be a few weeks. Well, if you call just after midnight, I mean literally just after midnight, you can get an appointment sometimes the next day, the day after that, or the next day. But you have to be straight in after midnight. That's the key, because that's when they reset the systems. During the day, definitely you might get one in 2 or 3 weeks, but I assure you, because I've seen it with my own eye, that you can get within days if you just go straight after midnight when the system is reset there. Let me know if that works for you. Right, okay. Well, I've been through this recently and about to go through it again. The issue in getting a driving test. You know, it's so bloody expensive to get on the road now. You have to do the theory test, which costs money. Sometimes you have to do it a couple of times. Then you have to send away for your licence. That's more money. Then you have to do your 10 or 12 mandatory tests. That costs money. You can't apply for your driving test until you're 6 months with your learner permit. I understand why all these rules are in there, whether I agree with them or not. So then you wait your 6 months. So you've done your theory, got your licence. You wait another 6 months. You've done your 10, 12 tests. And then you apply. You're invited then to apply for your test. And you could be waiting another 6-8 months. And if there's a delay with weather or whatever, how long? God knows how long it might take. So it takes an awful long time to get on the road and an awful lot of money. Councillor Micheál Colin McGallan-Espeg has been commenting on this and joins us on the programme now. Good morning, Micheál. Martin Why?
Martin Why, Greg, and Martin Why to Dodge. Hope you're all well.
Yeah, I mean, you were out the ground in West Donegal, particularly. In fact, most of Donegal, you need a car. So I don't think it's a west, north, south, or east situation. And what are you hearing from young people in relation to this issue?
Yeah, this is an issue that a lot of people come to me and have been over a period of time. And what it seems to be is that people are waiting months upon months upon months to get their driving test done. And as you says correctly, that we live in a very rural area. That whole western corridor and most of the country is quite rural. We depend heavily on our car due to the fact of, I suppose, the failure of any real public transport being put available through the Fianna Fáil and the Gael government. But the problem here is that a lot of young people are missing massive opportunities, missing opportunities in terms of college, missing opportunities in terms of employment. And I've seen people who have been waiting such a long time and decided, you know what, it's too long a wait. I'm going to head to Australia. I'm going to head somewhere. I can get up the mines. I don't need the driving licence, or to head somewhere else. And we're losing people in the country, and people who have been offered jobs, good jobs, to get them to stay at home. I see young ones who really don't want to leave, but they do want to stay at home, but they have no other choice. I've seen people who have had college, but they had no transport to get to college. They mightn't have been able to afford the accommodation, let's say somewhere without naming anywhere, but so they need the car. If they're going out to Letchcannon, they need the car because they mightn't be able to afford or even find accommodation. So there's a mess there. So what I've been trying to do is, and I'm grateful to Thomas for this.
Before you get into that question, can I add something to that as well? Because I agree, and I don't think many people can disagree with you, that people leave simply because they can't wait to get a driving test. But I think it's also a feeling, in a sense, that they get, you know, where am I going to live? You know, I can't get into a car, and if I do, the insurance is through the roof. So for some people, it's actually a feeling that, well, this country isn't for me. which is, I think, adding to a lot of, and maybe sometimes we add to it by, talking things down, but it's what we have to do. So I think, too, there's a lot of ones leaving because there is this feeling, and it is a reality as well for many, of course, that this is not a country for them. And that's what really kind of breaks my heart, that they go, well, I've got no prospect for a house. I can't even get a car on the road. What's there here for me? And I think that's a really bad advertisement for our country. It should be so much different.
Well, look, I suppose we have to be all very honest and open about this, is that, and without doing too much politicking, but we have to call it out for what it is. The failure of Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael to actually properly invest into our communities, to provide the services, to provide the job opportunities, and also the wages. And I was talking to a man the other day who was telling me, we were down in Highland, and a man who's worked really hard all his life, reared a family, and children can never ever live here because they can never ever afford to build here. That's just the reality. It wasn't a case that they couldn't get the land. The land is there, but just couldn't afford it. And the way that we've structured our communities and societies now is absolutely chasing our youth and middle-aged people. It's not just young ones, middle-aged people, to different countries, to foreign countries. But going back to the driving test, it's actually a big issue. And I was really listening carefully to what you were saying there in your intro in terms of all the driving lessons and tests or driving lessons that you have to do prior to getting it, because me and you will be similar age, and when we were younger of that age, you got a number of driving lessons and off you went and hopefully passed your test. But what's happening now is that it's mandatory to have a certain amount, and I think myself and yourself spoke about this years and years ago. Why can we not do this through the school system? Why can we not do it through the school system, where once you leave your school or you come to a certain age, you've already done all your lessons through the classes, and it's a part of the curriculum, and then it saves time and money. A lot of families, and I can only speak for West Donegal because that's the area I represent, a lot of families just cannot afford all the lessons and tests. It's just not there. The money ain't there. People are struggling to pay rent. People are struggling to pay mortgages, and they're really, really finding it hard to actually give money to the young ones to get them lessons. So the whole system is not working.
Like if you consider, if you're on minimum wage, which many people are, particularly in the west of the county, if you're on minimum wage, one driving lesson is not. It's a big chunk of your weekly wage, and you have to do that 10 or 12 times, and that's whilst you're looking around to get a car. And that's also whilst you're looking around maybe to get a credit union loan and lump the insurance and car in, the first year. That's what a lot of people do. You borrow for the car and the insurance at the same time. But if you're spending a load of money on lessons, we understand the safety element of it, but there has to be a better way, or even some sort of positive discrimination whereby there is some sort of a fund or a voucher system where the government gives someone, €400 voucher towards driving lessons, and it can be only used that way. There's loads of ways this could be, we could help the people. But just to, we'll get to the issues raised on your behalf by Deputy Thomas Pringle and the commitment coming back then from the Minister.
Well, I'm waiting for the response now on that PQ to come through on this one, because the last one that was submitted, I was reading it. I think I might have sent it on to Caroline. I'm not very clear or sure, but the government then, from the Gael Fianna Fáil government then, talked about putting more resources into the tests and reducing the time. But for me, unless they've done it in other areas, I don't know, but surely they haven't done it for Donegal, where they have reduced the times. And if any of the government TDs or minister wants to come on and contradict me and put me right, listen, absolutely take that on the chin. But the reality for me, or more so for the young ones that come to me regularly, are that they're left for months and months. And then I was talking to a lad yesterday who's nearly a year waiting for his driving test.
Well, listen,
and that's a young lad that wants to stay at home.
Yeah, for sure. And we should be facilitating him staying at home. Now, listeners
Absolutely.
out there is bound to be one of yous out there, or your young ones they've been invited for booking a test. Let us know how far in advance the test actually is, and that date can move. Like, if there's a drop of frost, that all the blinking tests are
It
cancelled.
can be moved. The dates can be moved. Correct. And also the other thing is that if you fail your driving test, then you're then back into a whole process of waiting again. So it's a long, long process. And I do think that it'd be worth exploring the possibilities of making it a part of curriculum within our secondary schools. And why wouldn't we do it? Look, difficult things take a bit of time, and possible things just take that bit longer, as somebody once says. And it's all down to the will. That's where it's at.
Listen,
and if you look at the insurance industry...
That's far more practical than increased speed penalty points at weekends. And you know what I mean? Like that, I think that's sort of very reactionary. Obviously, the logical thing to do, and we've seen how these road shows that they put on affect children and younger people, and they're, of course, the logical thing to do is tool people up with the proper education on road safety and driving in secondary schools. It makes absolute sense. Stay where you are, Micheál, because Seamus has a suggestion, which, I mean, I'm not sure in this day and age it will ever get over the line, Seamus, but what do you think?
Well, any young person that has applied for their driving licence, Greg, they should be fit to drive unaccompanied until the driving test comes through. And if they fail the driving test, then they go back to not being allowed to drive unaccompanied. Because the way it is now, it's just a money racket.
It is, but one thing, Seamus, not to contradict you, if you do it that way, right? We already see this with the learner permits. You would just book you would have failed your test, book a new test, and back out driving on your own again. Would that not lead to maybe people? Go ahead.
But how did we learn to drive?
Well, I know how I learned to drive. I used to drive back from Mass with my father, and I won't reveal the age. I was listening to Micheál talking about a few lessons and away you went.
No, I'm not saying
That's not how we did it.
When I was young,
to be honest with you.
When I was young, you were fit to drive on your provisional license.
Yeah, for sure, definitely.
Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's just all gone now to about money. How much money can we get off the people?
Seamus?
Like, the young people are paying over the nose for insurance because they're on a learner permit. And through no fault of their own, they are being overloaded because they can't get a driving test.
If you're under 20, I think it's either under 20 or 21, or it could be 19, there's a 50% young driver premium. Literally just 50% put on your insurance because you're of that age. It's not based on your experience or your ability. It's just a levy, a 50% levy on young drivers. That's from the insurance companies. That's a disgrace as well. Seamus, I have to leave it there, unfortunately. Yeah. We'll come back to this, Seamus, and please text in the next time, because I'd like a longer chat with you, because I hate cutting people off. But we're right up against the clock. Councillor Micheál Collum, if you get an answer back to that PQ, maybe you might come back on and we can tease this out a little more when there's more time, because it's affecting hundreds of people out there, and it is a factor in the depopulation, particularly I think of rural Ireland.
Absolutely, and I will come back and just on 2 points very, very quickly. The government does have the ability to step in when it talks when you're talking about insurance, and that 50% levy is youth discrimination, and it's all about profit, and they can and they should step in and make it affordable. Making rich people richer, it's very much what Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael are certainly about. But going back to the thing, and I think it should be discussed in the next opportunity to get, maybe with the Minister when he's on, is to discuss maybe the possibility of looking at the schools and having the tests or the lessons there. You have simulators that we see. There's a friend of mine who is in Dublin Airport who has a simulator there. There are loads of ways that we can actually do this and be very, very practical and cost savings for families that are absolutely on the breadline already, and it's not absolutely fair, because our community deserves better.
And the transition is I think a lot of, it's funny enough, I think maybe in rural Ireland not as many take the transition year as others do, because they need to get out and start working, funny enough. But anyway, there are opportunities in schools to educate on this. If it is as important as everyone says it is, and we know it is, well then that's precisely how you do it, through education at an early age. Councillor Micheál Collum, thank you very much. Seamus, thank you.
The 9 till noon show with O'Hara's of Foxford. Our new Baker 51 authentic sourdough celebrates 72 years of baking. Now's the perfect time to try it for yourself.
Hamilton is coming to the Bord Gáis Energy Theatre on Monday 21st of October 2024. This hugely popular musical is almost sold out, but here at Highland Radio we've got you covered. We include luxury transfers, overnight stay at the 4-star City North Hotel Dublin, your ticket to the show and a shopping trip to Dublin the next day. To book, simply call us on 074 9125,000 or visit the outlet at highlandradio.com.
Go full Lidl with these exclusive Lidl Plus Super Savers. Like Board B approved Irish Angus lean beefsteak mince was $5.99, now $4.79. Pick organic vine tomatoes, 48% off, now $1.29. And there's 30% off frozen breaded fish cakes, now $1.81. Scan your Lidl Plus app and go full Lidl today.
The 100% electric new Nissan Ariya is now on Irish roads, which means you'll discover the game-changing silhouette that sets it apart, as well as its luxurious interior inspired through Japanese design. Then you'll discover the smooth acceleration, quiet operation and advanced technology that makes every drive a pleasure. The new Nissan Ariya from €43,500. Test drive it today and discover outstanding. Nissan, innovation that excites. Dealer delivery and related charges apply.
On the wings of a snow.
Hot Country TV Sky 588 in association with Highland Radio present in concert a tribute to country music legend Charlie Pride by his brother Stephen and 6-piece band with guests at the Mount Erigal Hotel Letterkenny Wednesday 27th of March 2024. Hear over 40 of Charlie Pride's hits. This is a concert not to be missed. Tickets €25. Available from hotel reception now.
Highland Radio weather updates brought to you by Grant. Building a new home? Choose Grant's A++ rated Airona air-to-water heat pump and Uflex underfloor heating. Visit grant.ie.
Mostly dry and sunny this afternoon and just the chance of an isolated shower. A chilly day with temperatures of 7 to 9 degrees and light breezes. We're joined on the programme now by Noel Cunningham, author of Guide to Modern Irish Manners and Donegal Ambassador. Good morning to you, Mr. Cunningham. Hello, Noel.
In Young, can you hear me?
I can hear you now, Noel. Go ahead.
We haven't spoken in such a long time. We're long overdue a chat. How are you all and all your good listeners?
We are doing fantastic and we're all very excited to see you appear on RT1 tonight. That's why I wanted to speak to you. It's at 7 p.m. It's a show called High Road, Low Road. You're teaming up with Mary Kennedy and you're off to Valencia. Talk to me about the show.
Well, the show is quite a funny little unique way of doing a travel show. You pitch up at the airport at 5 o'clock in the morning. You have 2 suitcases. You don't know where you're going. When you arrive, you don't know if you've been the lucky one to get the luxury or the unfortunate one and get the budget accommodation. And it's enormous fun. And it was enormous fun. And Mary Kennedy is just glorious company. And honestly, Valencia is the most beautiful city imaginable. So great crack, great fun, and I was truthfully out of my comfort zone because I'm usually in control of everything.
I can't believe you managed to travel away on 1 suitcase, Noel. That's the biggest shock to me.
Look, to be honest, there are penalties that should be enforced for those who impose a certain type of holiday on a refined Irishman, Donegal person of the year who happens to be gay and who happens to live in Harvey's Point. Honestly, it's a crime against hospitality to take me out of that zone and impose a completely different regime. And that's all I'm saying. But the show is all the better because of it.
Yes, indeed. And what a perfect guest for this programme. Are you allowed to divulge if you're wined and dined in first class or if you're on the budget side of things? Or is that part of the reveal, Noel?
I couldn't possibly say unless I had my lawyer present. Suffice to say, everything up until we touched out in Valencia was fabulous.
Okay, I think, you know what, if I'm reading you correctly, that's more fun because I want to see you suffer, Mr. Cunningham.
Well, you may be in for precisely the treat you've waited so long for.
Very good.
It's good crack.
Yeah, indeed. It's nice to, hopefully you have to rough it like the rest of us minions. But anyway, you're in good company anyway. That's first class. That's one thing you're guaranteed. You and Mary, I'm sure you make an adorable team.
Mary Kennedy's one of the great Irish broadcasters. She's quite legendary. She's done them all. State funerals, state weddings, the big events in history in Ireland in the last 50, 60 years. She's just an incredible lady and such delightful company. And as we say in Donegal, no airs and graces about her. One of our own delightful lady.
I haven't... And your line's about to break up, I think, but I haven't seen this programme. But it might not be all it seems in that, sometimes maybe you could have a better holiday, with the street food and what have you, than you might, in the 5-star. There's nothing guaranteed. The luxury doesn't necessarily make the holiday or the experience.
A most important lesson to learn, that travel is the most wonderful thing imaginable, and you are so right. That does not mean that you have to be cosseted in a 5-star hotel. Now, I'm beginning to get emotional because I would have accepted such a situation had it been offered, but I got over it and my therapy's going well. And Valencia was a lovely experience. So please tune in tonight and enjoy the crack.
I can't believe you're being a little bit dramatic. I didn't think that was one of your character traits, no.
Who, me?
Yes.
Drama. Oh, for heaven's sake.
We look forward to it.
I thrive on it.
I know. Well, look, it's the High Road, Low Road. It's an RTE one tonight at 7 p.m. and it'll be available afterwards on the player, featuring our own Noel Cunningham. He and Mary Kennedy off to Valencia. But what kind of holiday will they have? Tune in and find out. Noel, lovely to chat to you. See you soon.
God bless. We'll have a
Bye-bye.
proper chat one of these days on air. Bye-bye.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
take care of yourself. That's Noel Cunningham there. Thank you, Denise Roper, for bringing back such wonderful memories. May and Francis were so kind, coming in from Patricia indeed. And on it goes. Thank you so much for all of your calls, comments, and even just listening. That's good enough for us. We really do appreciate it. But that's where